Click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 129. And we're delighted to be joined by 2 times World Superbike champion James Toseland. How's it going?
That's all right. Not as good as you two. I made you 2 cups of coffee, and I'm new to this game, and I didn't have enough water for 3. So
I was just about to say we're like travelling connoisseurs of coffee these days. And to be fair, that is a bitching cup of that. Right? I'm not going to lie to you. I am not going to sleep for 2 weeks now. I'm wired. I can see it in your eyes.
I had to get a grinder for that. I don't know why I'm saying I got a grinder for that. Can we edit that out before we start?
We're editing nothing.
Special grinder just for you lads screwing down, because I've heard about you.
We're all going to make money, James. Don't judge us. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for the bitch and coffee.
Pleasure.
Absolutely cracking drive down for arsehole of no. I mean, sorry, lovely part of where are we closest to here?
My house.
Your house. Touche, Tomcat, good answer. And then Sheffield, Doncaster, Leeds.
We're right in the middle. We got Chesterfield down the road. We've got Worksop, like literally stones. That's the closest kind of town. Sheffield, Doncaster, you name it. Nottingham. Donington's only half an hour, 40 minutes down the road, so that's where we are.
Well, obviously it's about 2.5 hours for us coming down from Newcastle, so I had a little bit of time to stick a bit of Life is Beautiful and Renegade on.
Crikey.
We've been listening to a few of the classics on the way down.
Well, you've just seen me organ and my grinder, so not much you haven't seen so far, is he?
On the music front, I guess it's been real difficult over the last few years with the way things have been for that industry.
It does.
Are you doing any sort of playing at the moment?
Not at the minute. I've got a few songs that I'm working on, and I will go in a studio again at some point. But there's 3 main things. One, Brexit. That pretty much knackered touring around Europe without any red tape and bureaucratic paperwork. Because outside the EU, we did a show in Switzerland about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a bit more now. It's probably one of them where I'm like, it's 15 years ago. But you had to get a carnet done, which is a piece of paper that documents everything that you've got in your van. Jeez. And I mean everything, every nut and bolt. And basically what that is, when you go over the border, you show the border. If the border force want to look in the van, check every single thing off, they can. And then when you drive back out of the country, they can check it back again to see what you've sold in their country, to see if you owe any tax. Mm-hmm. That's what they're for, right? And inside the EU, you could just drive to France, Italy, wherever you wanted to do a show and not even worry about any of that, right? So from Brexit, every single country you go to, you've got to do what we did in Switzerland.
So what are bands doing to get around that then? Or are they just literally towing the line?
Elton John's been a bit of a spearhead of trying to get them to have a waiver for artists of not having to do all of that. Yeah. I mean, we did one show in Switzerland, and it was like, I got charged €3,000, I think it was, because they said I'd sold the guitars in Switzerland, right? And these were loaners from Gibson that we'd loaned for the show, and they'd gone to America before I got this bill, and I couldn't prove that we'd still got them because they were loaners, so I had to pay them.
Wow. Jesus.
So that was like the only time we did a show over there. But just that's an example of the complications and the expense it can be without the freedom of movement in Europe.
So was that like a full strip down of your wagon? I can only assume what I'm picturing of AC/DC rock concerts.
Oh no, a van, splitter van.
Right, Sprinter van job.
Yeah, splitter van. Right. Yeah, splitter van with like literally bare minimum, because we were supporting who was supporting Blackstone Cherry, I think it was, or it was either them or Quo. Can't remember if it was Quo or Blackstone, one of them two. So we took the bare minimum, because when you're supporting, like, get on, get off, don't even breathe. Don't look at that gear, that's theirs.
What's the biggest
Gibsons picking them up? There you go. I need these lads.
What's the biggest bands and like the biggest gigs that you've done with the music side of things?
We supported Deep Purple in Germany and Italy. And that was
Jesus.
That was in this amazing amphitheatre outside amphitheatre. I can't remember what it is in Germany, but
Now, the Germans by sheer heritage are nuts. Never mind in rock concert.
they love it.
My God, what was that like? Then it's weird. Have you done a crowd surf? I've got to get that question in.
I haven't.
Oh, you shy bag.
I haven't, because every time I could have done a crowd surf, it's always been somebody else's crowd because we've been supporting. Right? So it's far too risky.
Jump out and they just part.
It's like, when's Deep Purple on, pal? Off you come on, get up. Get up, finish that song, because don't Deep Purple on.
That's why his wrist's really fused.
That's
we'll
what
get
it
on to
was.
That's it. Yeah, he's just took
Wasn't
a
a
swan
Viking
dive.
drink.
That's it. We're uncovering the secrets of the motorcycle world here. He just took a swan dive.
Yeah.
I'd have actually seen you years ago. Can you remember when you played at Donington, so at the Grand Prix, where the Dunlop Bridge used to be? You were in that thing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you
Yeah,
there.
that was Parfit. That was Parfit Junior's band that they were playing to the campsite, and I went down and sang a song with them. And obviously Rick passed away, bless him, a couple of years ago now. And that's the guitarist from Quo. So yeah, his son does an amazing covers band. They do all like the motorsport shows, like they do F1 and everything. So.
Do you get a similar kind of kick from being the front man of a band to, like, say, lining up for a Grand Prix, or is it just completely unrelatable?
It's more now nerve-wracking music, because you're literally walking out to eyeballs looking at you, and I was never comfortable with that. Right, you know, on a track, you got your helmet on, you're looking down the track, and there's no crowd, like, other than just before you put the helmet on, like with a 3, 4, 5 minute board to go, and you've got your press and Neil Hodgson asking you questions like that are so annoying before the race, Neil. He wasn't asking me questions in my ear. He was racing against me, so I don't know why I pulled Neil out, but I can't remember who it was asking questions at that time. Charlie Cox, you know, someone like that. But that's once it all clears, you don't see anything, you know, and at 200 miles an hour, you can't really focus on anybody kind of looking or judging or getting any of the vibe, whether they're enjoying it or not. And I tell you what I love about sport, it's simple. You cross the line first, everybody loves it. You cross the line second or third, everybody thinks it's all right. Fourth, fifth, I could do with 5 back off my ticket, pal. You know, but they're the levels, aren't they? Of how much you can judge on how successful you've been. Music industry, oh god, it's all so select, it's all taste, you know, subjective. It's tough.
You know, like turning a crowd round. How long have you waited? If you know what I mean, like through a gig, you thought, like, we're into the second song here, this is not going the way, and has it all of a sudden changed on you?
It's tough to write your own stuff and go out there with brand new music to people that don't know a word or a note, and you've got to just deliver what your message that you want to portray and get across to people, and you just got to believe it. That's the main thing about it. If you believe it and you believe the message and you believe in what you're doing, they'll come with you, you know. But if you try and push something that's like not yours, or they can tell that it's not you and it's not real, especially in the rock world. Oh god, I mean, I remember one article saying after the second album we did was top 40, right? After the second album, the motorcycling Grease Monkey does another album, Grease Monkey, which was borderline having some libel on it, you know what I mean? So I got quite a bit of pushback from the rock world in a few areas, because you know, I was coming from another world, and if you're a biker, you're a biker kind of thing. If you're a rocker, you're a rocker, and it's very, very difficult to flip between two different worlds and be accepted. You know? So it took some time.
What drove you to just actually wait, like, going down that route? I mean, hard though, you know what I mean? What drove you to it in the first place?
I had to retire from racing, which was really, really tough, and I had a lot of shit to shout about. And you can tell in the first album, I mean, you look on Crash Landing, that was the first song title I can remember that I wrote with Toby, because Toby Jepson was from the Little Angels, and I met him in Scarborough, and basically we had a
sorry. How did you meet him in Scarborough? What were you doing in Scarborough?
I was a vocal coach down in London, and he had a relative that was married or with one of his relatives. A weird connection.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, what are you doing? I said, I've just retired from racing, so I'm going to go back into my music, because that's all I know, you know. Because I learned the piano before I rode motorbikes, and my gran played the piano beautifully, and she taught me to play, and I got to grade 6, and that was all I wanted. I wanted to go to London College of Music, and that's all I wanted to do. that was it. And then at 8 years old, when I was just, getting pretty decent on the piano, my mum went out to a pub and brought a bloody biker home. And it flipped on its head on what life kind of like panned off into. But it's so yeah. But so and I know I was in the kitchen with Toby and he had a chat about, okay, what you want to do, because to his mind I was a sportsman, and honestly, if it's not credible in the rock world, you can forget it.
That ruthless.
Oh, massively. But I like it because of that, because it is, the rock world is you listen to the lyrics and you listen to the song's narrative. It's generally about hardship, and issues.
Yeah,
it's
not twerking and hip hop.
No, it's not that you just had a fantastic weekend with a new girlfriend that you've just met.
No,
is it? So and there's a lot of kind of background to why the rock and roll came about. You can go back to the days back in America and the blues and all the rest of it, with slavery and all the rest of it. You can go all the way back, which it's if you look at the history of music and why it developed and why different types of music developed in different areas of the world because of the poverty and all the rest of it, it's fascinating, really fascinating. And when I retired from racing, I just I needed to get a lot from my chest of frustrations of life. The whole first album, I think, for anybody writing is pretty autobiographical, and that's why the second album's pretty tough, because they always say the second album's tough because who's got more than 12 stories to tell?
Yeah,
in their life. Like good ones that you want to talk about.
I suppose
I can come up with a couple, but 12.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot. So it's interesting how you've gone from learning the piano element of it to rock and roll. What was that? By the way, for people tuning in the chase and the racing, this isn't Planet Rock. By the way, this is that's so what got you into that? No, but I'm dead fascinated in there now. So how do you go from?
It's almost the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't it? Like sort of classic piano, like a grand piano to
rock and roll. All the. Like, I'm sorry, people getting. I would love to be I can't even say my own name without changing tunes. So maybe being a rock star is out the window, but I wouldn't mind the lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, crikey, it is a lifestyle. I tell you what, going from a professional sportsman, right, on monitoring that you've definitely had 8 hours sleep, not 7 hours 58 hours sleep. And you've had, 5 litres of water that day, not 4.2. You know what I mean? I wasn't that strict, but you know what I mean?
Nearly.
Yeah.
You were nearly. You can hear it.
Put a bit more lemonade in that shandy, because I'm not having a full fat beer. You know what I mean?
I'm not having that much fun.
Yeah,
can someone put a tap on this? You know what I mean? I'm nearly smiling here. I'm an athlete.
All these tech watches now that you can monitor exactly what hormones and everything's flying around your body.
I had feelings 2 minutes ago. I've got to get rid of this.
And then get in a van with 6-7 other lads on a full-on night shift. I mean, when you're touring, it's your own shows. You come off stage at like 10:30, 11. Then you go to the merch stand and try and sell a few T-shirts just so that you're not losing money every show. And then you finish about midnight, get back in a van at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, and then you put in the sat nav of the travel lodge that you're gonna settle down in with 2 or 3 other bandmates.
It sounds like podcasting for us.
It is.
But nothing rock and roll about it, Chris.
The only thing open is a 24-hour Burger King, McDonald's, and all the rest of it at services. And like life on the road, especially nighttime life, it's pretty unforgiving. Oh my God. Especially for keeping healthy. It's really unforgiving for keeping healthy. Yeah, isn't it? It's disaster. So yeah.
Speaking of that, you obviously it's been quite a while since you retired from professional racing, but you clearly like keep yourself in like good nick. Do you still work out?
Are you
proper
eyeing
hard?
him up there, Chrissy?
I've not done the band for 3 years. That's why I've got back in shape again.
Do you smash the gym like that?
Brexit's got some advantages. Something positive from it.
Are you mainly weight, or do you do a lot of cardio? Or?
Oh no, I just train for fun these days. I don't train to be better every day like I used to be. I just it's all for the beach these days. It's all for the beach.
I've never heard a lad
beach,
from
by the way. Beach,
all right,
yeah.
champion. I've never ever heard a lad from Doncaster go, it's for the beach. I'm thinking, we're pretty landlocked here, son.
It's coming soon. I know it is. There's going to be an opportunity to see some sand at some point. It's not going to be Cleethorpes. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
No,
Nothing against Cleethorpes or Skegness, but
Sorry, I've got to
you
go
don't get your gear off, do you? So you can't show off what you've been working on in Cleethorpes.
Get mugged straight away.
Hypothermia.
Straight off the bat.
now
I'm distracted now.
Going back to the the sort of bike racing thing you alluded earlier to, the initial introduction into bike racing was, did you say around 13-year-old?
No, I got my second-hand trials bike T180 when I was about 8, 9.
And that was from your stepdad's influence.
Yeah, he had a X Up 1000 Yam when he first came on the scene. Took me on the back of that, and I was like, "Oh my god! Can you imagine, like a 9-year-old from Kiverton Park, Sheffield, like having piano lessons, getting quite a lot of grief from the lads in Sheffield, walking around to my piano lessons every Monday with my little leather satchel and my spots and my braces. You know, it wasn't a great time. It wasn't the easiest of times, should I say, for the bullying."
You're putting a brick in your satchel. Yeah. Come near me.
I was winded and no pocket money for at least 2 days a week.
I was similar. Mine when I was younger, I had to give the.
Oh my god!
What? Jesus Christ! I'm glad I didn't go to school where you were from.
I'll edit that out.
No, you're not. Don't you dare! Don't you dare! You shite bag! So, oh my god! So
that's throwing me off that one. So yeah, 8 or 9 years old, and all of a sudden this guy turns up with a motorbike, and he plays a bit of rock and roll on the piano, and when he took me on the back of the bike, that was like a game changer. It was like, oh my god, we're like flying around these roads at God knows what speed. And I've been brought up in like a single mum, so everything's she's pretty strong, my mum, and like everything's pretty like strict. She had 2 lads, like 2 young lads. I mean, on her own. It's like,
are you the younger out of the brother then?
Yeah, 18 months younger. So 18 months difference. So it was like we must have been handful. Well, no, we were handful. And like we weren't really introduced to kind of boys stuff without the father figure. I realised that now that lads with dads did dad stuff, but lads that grow up without the dads around, you know, until you're 9, 10-year-old, you kind of, you get, I don't.
So what was your brother doing then? Because obviously, you know, I don't have I've got 2 older sisters. Stay away from them. They are so like the older brother. What was your older brother doing between this? Because as a younger brother, you tend to look up to the older brother. So what was he doing? Piano as well?
He hated piano. He wasn't prepared to be winded with no pocket money to just get good on the piano. He was. You
were committed and competitive from day one, weren't you?
I was prepared to take the flak for this. I love my gran that much. She wants me to play the piano. I'm going to do it for her. That's it. Right. Okay. But he wasn't prepared to take it. So he was football. He was really keen football. I played for Sheffield Wednesday kind of juniors, and he was a really talented footballer. He still plays like Sunday League now. But he wanted kids at 19. So I've got a 22-year-old nephew who's and a 19-year-old nephew and 11-year-old. So I've got 3 nephews, and that was his goal in life, was just to be a dad. So, and like I've talked to him about it. It was like, because all I wanted to do was like be the best at something. I've always been competitive. I've never been content with stuff, and it's a curse. Oh my god, it's a curse. You know, it's worked out kind of thing. But I wish I had the content level of my brother. Like, he's so chill, like, you know, like with his kids and his family, and he goes in the caravan and he loves it. And I really envy it sometimes, you know. Not all the time, obviously, because we are different. You have to accept yourself, don't you? But
yeah.
But sometimes when I just want to just turn that off and just switch off and just chill out a bit, oh god, it's tough.
I bet it is. Yeah. Is he a big critic of yours? Like, you know, like, do you ring him up and like, I can just imagine him being at one of your gigs. Go, what did you think? You just can't. Actually, that one was shite. You know what I mean? Has he ever been like that? Or
never. He's the most laid back. And like, he wouldn't be able to do this. In interviews or talking to anybody that he doesn't really know. He's kind of, you know, lads around here in our village, we don't get exposed to too much, if you know what I mean. So, like, going on stage and playing in front of hundreds of people or thousands if you're supporting or whatever, or racing in front of 100,000 people at brands or like, and the press and all this kind of stuff, it's just alien. Like, But luckily, I was so close. I am so close to my family. The one thing I always tried to do was when they were all talking was to still have things in common with what they were talking about. Because when you leave the nest, especially from when you're a small village and you travel the world and you get exposed to experiences in life that are so far fetched to what the norm is of a normal village upbringing, you can all of a sudden lose touch with what life's all about, what you think it is, what you thought it was.
Yeah.
And that's a lonely old place if you're not careful, if you lose touch with either of them. Because if you lose touch with what you thought it was all about growing up when you're a kid, because that molds you, and stick to that, you've got to be content with sticking to that.
Yeah.
And that's not easy when you've experienced a load of other stuff, which is massively different and has massively different emotions attached to it. To stand on the podium and listen to your national anthem and become a world champion at something, and then go back to the village and just like go and watch your nephew play football on the side of the pitch, and just talk about someone on Facebook with a couple of lads around a table. It's that yin and yang thing that it's been a journey. It's a real journey.
Classic cases. We talked about this at the time as well, when Fury beat Klitschko, and he'd spent his whole life kind of getting to that point, and he came extremely close to actually taking his own life after it because of that sort of come down and like sort of achieving what you'd set out, and then kind of what would be normal to most people, like say having a Sunday dinner with the family and just normal things that it would be like up on the sort of higher end of enjoyment, compared to being, world champion things. It's just, it feels so, having such a massive high makes everything else feel so flat. It just doesn't
scratch the itch. It just doesn't scratch the itch at all. And I tell you why it's difficult once you complete something is what you realise, because I know with Tyson Fury, I've heard some of his interviews, he's got some kind of syndrome, like mine, like most professional sportsmen, that with that lack of contentment for anything.
Yeah.
You need something to occupy your brain to put into. So if you find something that you're good at, like Tyson has, and then climb the ladder, it's perfect. Because if you want to be a world champion at something, well, strap in, because it's a long old journey. Every day, trying to better yourself. But it's a journey and a path and an objective that scratches that itch. Because to be a world champion, God, it's tough to do all the training, the amount of dedication that you need to get even anywhere near close to that. It's 24/7 occupation, whether you're actually in the ring or you're thinking about being better yourself in the ring. I'm just using boxing here as with Tyson, but when you complete the challenge, you're knackered. Because it's like you've realised that just trying to achieve the challenge has kept you sane. Completing the challenge ain't the be all. It isn't the saviour that you thought it was going to be for you.
That's a great way of putting it, the saviour kind of thing. You're looking for that end goal, aren't you, all the time?
Yeah, like that's going to turn it all off and calm you down, right? But you don't realise it's not something that an achievement that can sort out.
Wow, I've never even thought of it.
Do you know, it's not a sporting analogy at all, but it almost fits perfectly. My favourite TV series of all time is Only Fools and Horses, and the whole way through, the goal is to become a millionaire, and the sort of wheeling and dealing. I'm saying this, everyone will be listening, knowing what Only Fools and Horses is about, but sort of setting the scene, wheeling and dealing in the market, sort of being skint all the time, and then eventually when they do become millionaires, there's like that. It's exactly what you're saying, and it's almost like, well, they've had this goal the whole time, and when they got there, they actually realised that the enjoyment was getting there. That was, and
exactly that.
And it's obviously we can only speak from imagine what it's like, but sort of hearing it from somebody that's been there and done it, it's fascinating.
It is, because when I took the first title in 2004 and I crossed the line and I went to bed in the hotel room, the next 2 weeks were confusing, just because you think that achieving that goal that you've worked all your life for, from myself, from 9 years old to 23 years old, you think that's a lifetime, but when you get to 41, you know it's not. But when you get to 23 years old and you've started on that treadmill from being 9, that's a long time to want to achieve something and think that it will be it, whatever that is, whatever that contentment that you think it's going to bring. And the satisfaction, it doesn't, and then you go, Christ, okay. So that didn't work. And then why it is so difficult to then win another one is because it's not worked. It's like, well, how am I going to get the motivation to do that again if it hasn't worked? If being a world champion isn't enough to sort the issues out that people have, like Tyson Fury and all the rest of it that have talked mental health about, if it's not enough, that's why being a multiple world champion is tough, because you've got to then just enjoy having it in your life, having the day-to-day objective and opportunity in your life that it realizes keeps you on some sanity, some level of sanity in life. Yeah, having it in your life. It's not about actually the winning or completing the goal. It's just having it in your life that you enjoy and gets you through life. And that's why ex-sportsmen, when they retire, like myself, through an injury or just through age, there's a lot that fall by the wayside with suicide or drugs and all the rest of it, because
trying to fill the gap.
Yeah, and also I think it's tough for motorcycle racers as well, because I've done a few sports in my time, but I tell you what, there isn't much that gives you a nice little buzz than going 200 miles an hour down a back straight. There really isn't. And I think the emotions that motorcycling give you at speed, racing, as well as winning, I mean, chuck that on and all, you know. So all of these endorphins that are going through your body and your brain, impossible to replicate. Impossible.
For our listeners who'll be thinking, "Oh, we haven't tried that." What have you tried? Give us a quick list. Have you literally tried car racing, skydiving? I'm trying to think of like shark bait. I'm trying to think of Matt. There's literally nothing that comes near motorcycling.
No.
Wow.
No. But again, this is an individual thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I toured with a band for 8 years. So you can imagine there's a few things going on, right? And there was a few concoctions that you went, shit, you know, where you went, okay, I can see why that could be a bit of a thing, and I think that's again why ex-sportsmen sometimes go down substance road, because it is one of the things that can actually make you feel similar without going 200 miles an hour or winning stuff. Yeah. So it could be very, very addictive, like because
a quick fix.
It fixes that thing.
But then it makes it worse, and you sort of need that just to feel normal, and then if you get stuck in that.
Well, I mean, winning a race and going 200 miles an hour, you know, that lasts until the next race. And then you get another one, but you've not come down, really. You go, oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'll have another bit of that, and that's amazing. That's a bit, you know, substance, right? Oh, no, it's not amazing. Substance. But then, it's like me doing my crowd surf again.
Bang straight to the floor.
To a place where even the worst loss or accident, hospitalisation on the track couldn't replicate.
Mm-hmm. Jesus, mad old world, isn't it?
So the peaks and the troughs to life, from growing up as a kid to what you get exposed to, with what you're fortunate enough to achieve, with what everybody wants you to achieve, depending on your own mental state, on who you are, depends how you cope with that, and how you cope with it before, how you cope with it during, and how you cope with it afterwards, with the issues that you got going on.
Do you know, you mentioned earlier about like you wish you'd you could have had more of your brother's like sort of attitudes to life and be more content with not being that obsessive.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's something that you can't, you couldn't, like, say if someone had said that to you earlier in your life, like, oh, you need to be more like your brother, you can't choose it. It's the way you are.
Yeah.
Is anything, if you could speak to your 15-year-old self again, is anything like you wish you'd put in place in your life, or what would you tell yourself before you started that?
Oh, okay. Again, it's an individual thing. I mean, on a personal side, at 15 years old, you know, the guy that started me in racing and just committed suicide, and then all of a sudden I got no one to take me racing, and then I had to find someone to take me racing, and so I had a whole career that was fueled with quite a lot of bereavement and pain, frustration. At 15 years old, you're not really exposed to that. You know, you lose your grandma maybe at that age, but to kind of like realize that suicide all of a sudden is an option in life is really confusing. To that. So
and you discovered it. Sorry, like from every time we started this podcast, I obviously know who you are, but I don't know your past, and that's why I get excited about doing these pods. So at 15, you know what's happened between 8-year-old, you with a brick in your satchel beating up bullies and then hopping on a motorcycle. What the hell's happened?
They were beating on me.
They are. Wait, you're saying one side of the story.
I got one or two.
Good lad. So sorry for interrupting there. So 15. So what happened between that gap then? That's a.
I did 4 years of trials riding with Ken, and then did a year and a bit motocross. And all through this period, unfortunately, it was a pretty hostile relationship with him and my mum. So just as I started road racing, I did 1995 junior road racing. That was my first road racing year. And I won the British Championship my first year, which was amazing. Loved it. So got Steve Brogan in there, James Ellison, John Woodcock. There was a few good little lads.
Quite name drops
Super
here.
Teens. That
was
the
June.
step before?
No, that was the one before in '95. That was the Junior Road Racing Association. Who else was it? Mark Heckles. That was '96. That was Super Teens. But so '95 was Junior. Won that. Then Super Teens was in '96 on a Kajiva 125, and Carl Harris and
Jesus
bless him. Heckles in that was my Kajiva teammate Mick Walker. So and then 96 was unfortunately my mum left Ken for the final time because it was serious. It was really serious, and unfortunately he decided to take his own life. Yeah.
Bloody hell! And you were 15 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
And at that point, were you doing the racing with Ken, or did Ken?
Yeah. So junior road racing with him, and then half a year with Super Teens, really, and then that happened, and then, but luckily, I mean, this is how life goes, doesn't it? I mean, it was in the local paper a little bit what had happened in the village, and I was out motocrossing because this is a mining village where I'm from, so the mine shut, so literally I'd got like 2 square miles of grass land to razz around on a KX100.
Silver linings.
Loved it. So I razzed around there, and a rider called Mick Corrigan was living in the village. I didn't even know he was in the village at the time, and he was on the field at the same time, razzing around. I chased him round and showed him a wheel or two. Didn't realise it was the current British Supersport runner-up in British Supersport that year. And he stopped in the field and asked who I was and blah, blah, blah. He said, what do you race? I said, well, I've had to stop because of this situation. And he then found my number and he rang up. He said, do you want to ride a CB500? There's a new championship starting in '97. If your mum's got 15 grand, I'll put you in my team, and I'm doing super sport. Because he went from Yamaha to Honda, and he was going to do the 600s, and I was going to do the CB500. And I convinced my mum to find 15 grand. God knows how she did that. Like, when I look back, oh my God, I was getting lapped on a Kajiva. I got lapped by Carl Harris at Brands in '96 in Super Teens. Lapped. And I convinced my mum to give me 15 grand in '96.
How long did it take you to persuade her? That wouldn't have been a 5-minute conversation. Mum.
Do you know what? I pitched it. I pitched it.
I just see you a PowerPoint.
This is a guaranteed investment, Mum. Like, this is like I don't know. I'm trying to. This is like Bill Gates trying to sell Microsoft to. You know what I mean?
She must have had a hell of a belief in you to go for it like that.
I think. I mean, bless her. I think what she saw was with what had just gone on. I was so passionate, and I was. And all my life I did. I didn't want to race. I needed to race. And it was because of these personal things going on. I needed. There's always been a difference with me, and there's always a difference between multiple champions. You'd need to do it, not want to do it. If I ever see any kids that tell me I want to do that or want to do this, well, if you need to do it, I'll take you. I'll support you. Yeah. And that is the difference with it. And she saw that. And
did you find the racing back then was a kind of an escape from what was going on in your life?
Completely, always was. Mm-hmm. The toughest thing that I've had to deal with since retiring from racing 10 years ago is letting all that go.
Jesus wept.
Yeah. Not riding. I miss racing till I die. But that's not been the toughest thing personally for me to deal with. It's not having that to cope with what the rest of it is. That's what I was talking about before.
Yeah. No, just talking about. I've said it before about you can always join the dots of backwards, but you never know where like the paths your life's going to take.
Yeah.
But like looking back, that you putting the wheel up. Is it Mick Corrigan?
Yeah.
Yeah. You putting a few wheels things. Without that, you probably wouldn't have become world champion.
I mean,
and it's like such a.
Mick Corrigan living in the same village, just on the same field, on his motocross bike. He was one of the top boys, and Mick Corrigan was one of the fastest production riders, and he ran a great team, and he gave me a chance on a CB500, a brand new championship. Nobody had heard it. Nobody even knew what CB500 was. It was a courier's bike, and I won every single race except for one. And then
I could hear the grit in his voice when he said bar one.
I was, yeah. Damn it. I got taken out at the last race.
Who by?
God.
You can remember.
I can't.
You can't.
I let that one go, didn't I? Yeah. That's the only thing I've let go in my life.
All the rock and roll, all that.
It's amazing, that championship's just gone from strength to strength. Even now, I don't know if you've been to a Thundersport round recently. No, there's two full grids of CB500s.
I can understand. It was some of the most fun races.
It's like the biggest championship at Thundersport in terms of numbers. There's two grids of 40 riders. And I mean, a few years ago, you could get the championship winning bike for $1,000, but with COVID tax, I think they're up to about $3,000 now.
Oh, it's through the roof now.
Loved it.
I'll tell you what, right? The one guy who knocked you off has been waiting for his moment on this podcast, and you're going, I can't remember his name. He's like, he'll be saddling up the truck, he'll be backing it up.
I'll jump in as well, because I've been promising him for a while that I will give him a shout out. But congratulations to Grant Whitaker, who won the CB500 championship this year.
Wicked. Fair play to him. Yeah. God, what's that now? It's 15 years ago, isn't it? Or whatever. No, 25 years ago, sorry. When.
And Haslam did the CB500s, didn't he?
Yes, he did, yeah.
And more recently, Ryan Vickers came through on the CB500s.
Did he? Just so much fun. I mean, when there's a similar amount of grip to horsepower, it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. As soon as you get too much horsepower, it's a hassle because you have to work.
I cannot ride anymore.
Yeah. You have to work on it.
It is going back to 15-year-old you, before you got in the field in the motocross and you just saw someone and went, I'm going to go for a ride. What was your mindset at that point? Can you remember? You think, I'm just going to ride my bike. I'm going to go and get a job. What were you thinking at
I just got a motocross bike. That's all. We had to sell the Kajiva.
Yeah.
It was literally, I came home from school each night, and it was a bleak time. I can't really remember which home life from that period. It was pretty dark with everything going on.
Yeah.
So I literally just got home from school, and I could push my bike to the field, and that was it. Just razz around on the fields. Even at night time, I used to razz around, and I was angry. I was an angry kid, but the bike was just however angry I was, it sorted me out. And how many things can you do to vent that level of frustration and whatever it is going on? Especially you got teenager things going on as well, as well as all that. So, and then
people don't have that now. We're like, from the northeast, we've had another track shut down. You know, people can't go ride the bikes and stuff like that. That freedom's going and going and going and going, especially in the motocross world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
More places to ride are getting eliminated. And you think, well, there you go.
Well, the pit top where I used to go, now it's all been kind of excavated nicely and landscaped nicely. So, I mean, you're only just allowed to take a dog on there now.
Yes.
Never mind razz around on a KX100. So, the places of opportunity to do what we used to do as kids, and it was even phasing out then that it's never been like razzing around on fields and stuff, has it, with the locals?
No.
With the noise, especially with the old two-strokes and stuff razzing around. So it's it was a bit difficult then, but it was a complete off chance to meet Mick Corrigan.
Unbelievable. From winning the CB500s, was it up to 600s in this country?
Yeah, because Mick Corrigan was supposed to be my teammate as such. He was in 600s, I was in 500s, but he went out on the fields and broke his collarbone just before the season started, or just as it started. And because I went out and I was in and there was a newcomers and a professional group in the CB500s. I was 16 years old, and I think I was 2.5 seconds faster than second place in the newcomers. At Brands, first race, never ridden the bike before. And we went out and down in the van with Bob, Mick's brother, because Mick didn't have any idea about what was going to happen, right? He didn't even come down in the van with us. He was at home sorting his 600 because with a collarbone, right? Yeah. Anyway, Bob rang him on Friday, went, I think you have to come down here, mate. We're on it.
We're on the pipes.
So he came down and then talked to, it wasn't Stuart Higgs then, but I can't remember who it was back in the day.
Go on, Chrissy, you should know that.
He said, he said, put him up to the professionals. He says, now he's an 18 limit. And one of the proudest things that I did in 1997.
I lied.
Was change the rules from 18 to 16 for 600s. And they changed the rule for us. And I had to run a number 0 on the bike. I couldn't score any points. That was one of the stipulations of it. I don't know why, but so then they moved me up to the professional class, qualified on pole, won the race. Obviously, won even in that class, and I won them all except for one. So obviously that was the last race as well. So I won them all season, and because of Mick Corrigan with his collarbone, Honda went, Christ, stick him on the 600 then. And so they stuck me on the 600. I tested at Cadwell once, and then I was at Brands for the first race in the rain. Finished 8th, just beat Moody in my first ever race on a 600. And that was a thing. So obviously Jim Moody was a bit of a legend.
When you're 16?
Jesus, wow.
Yeah.
At what point did racing pressure sink in for you as a rider?
No. You shove a load of pressure on. You shove it all on. And like the need and desire for it. It was like, you're not getting anywhere near close to whatever I'm putting on this shit. Mm-hmm. So, you want to ask a couple of questions, or sponsors expecting a few results, and that, no problem, because in here it's twice that. So
yeah.
So yeah, it was never a problem for me a lot.
And back then, was your mum and your brother involved? Like, did they used to come racing or?
No, because
his brother was off riding women trying to get a kid. That's what
yeah, literally. Well,
do you want a baby?
Well, a couple of years after that was it.
Straight off
shacked up. Yeah. I remember I was 17, right? And my sister-in-law, they're still together. Sister-in-law, she's 3 months younger than me, so she was 17. And I remember in my mum's house, I remember her saying, your brother's asked us for a kid. I went, for what? I thought I mistook for a pizza or something, you know what I mean?
Is that on the menu?
Yeah.
Two kids, please.
A kid or a cup of tea? Because it was like at 17 years old, it's just not on the radar, is it, for most? But yeah, he asked her for, and that was it. Went to Benidorm and come back with something in the oven, obviously. So Benidorm Bailey, we call him. I don't think he knows that, actually.
He does now.
Yeah.
He does now.
Yeah. So
you used to just go.
But Mum hated it.
Right.
Mum always hated it. Yeah. I mean, on a personal level, can you imagine meeting someone and having such a volatile time as a relationship that introduces your son to something that is connected to, and not only connected to, but is bloody dangerous? I mean, it must have been a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Jesus. The thing that I'm sort of thinking about is, you think of, like, say, British Championship now, and virtually everyone that's there around the sort of 16, 17-year-olds, they're like, not only is the mum and dad's there, but like the whole family, like things, to be that age and racing a British Championship and be going with by yourself in terms of your family, it's a hell of a thing. Like, if you went into BSB now and you seen a young lad that was there with no family around him doing that, like,
unusual.
It's a hell of a thing.
Yeah,
hell of a thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, yeah, I didn't think too much. But I think it because what happened. My mum was really poorly, and my brother took it a certain way. I took it a certain way, and it really separated us as a unit. We went our own ways on coping with it, which was insular. We never talked about it. I mean, I talk about it openly now just because I feel that mental health and all the rest of it is so out there now that I think it can only help people if there's someone kind of listening to this with any similarities. It can only help, even if just talking about it, even if it doesn't help, just like listening to someone else with their story, because everybody's got a story, and it's yeah, and I think because of the nature of my personal family, racing signified that part of my life, which for me created a life, but it also took a life, and it took away a lot of happiness for my mum. So it you know what I mean. So I remember crossing the line in Magny-Cours and in 2004 and winning the championship for the first time. I was only 23, and I remember my mum was there, and she just broke down and like gave us a biggest hug, and that was a really, really nice moment, because I felt like I'd achieved something that was somewhere near justifying doing it all.
I thought you were going to say the 15 grand.
And the 15 grand.
Absolutely.
Have you paid that back yet, by the way?
I did. I bought her a caravan.
Good man.
She wouldn't accept the money, but she wanted a caravan, so I bought her a caravan.
Wow.
She wouldn't accept it, so I'm not taking it back, So I said,
She still got the caravan?
Amazing.
No, she's upgraded. But that was the 15 grand. I bought her the caravan, yeah. So.
But like you say, that wow,
that was a powerful moment, yeah. That really was a powerful moment on it. I felt more comfortable. I felt more comfortable racing. I didn't feel as selfish for racing, because I always knew Mum hated it. And when she came to the tracks, and she never used to watch, she couldn't watch, she used to walk around the track. I remember at Monza, I was racing at Monza when I was in Castrol Honda or the Ducati days, and I crashed right at the far side of the track, and Monza's in a park with just all wooded area. And I crashed right at the end, like Lesmo won. And I got over the barrier, and I was waiting for the thing. My mum was walking through the woods. I was like, "What are you doing here?" She says, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" That was
I ran out of fuel, Mum.
And that was the first time I realised what she did during sessions. She just went on walkabout. And,
My God!
It was. I mean, it's a horrendous thing as a parent, as any parent. Whether you're watching, like Niall Mackenzie watching his son like win the British Superbikes or finishing 15th. It is a dangerous old game, and if you're not a parent that understands it and understands why some human beings do things in life that other people can't, get their head around, right? And if you're one of them people, you can't understand why somebody wants to go 220 miles an hour and try and win a bit of plastic at the end of it as a trophy. It just doesn't make sense to some people.
It's because you don't, when you're actually lining up on the grid, you obviously you've that sort of focused on what you do, and you don't really think about how your mom's feeling and stuff. But I've seen a few things when I've been spectating now, even that motocross race you were racing in the northeast, and as the kids were waiting to go, I seen a mum who couldn't watch the start, and she was turning around and she was like shaking and just doing the cross on her thing, and I just thought, wow, like they're willing to go through that.
Yeah.
Because they know the son or the daughter
wants to do it and
wants to
enjoys
do
it.
it. But to like
Every
actually
weekend.
see what parents go through. I once got someone to video my mum, and it was a cadwell like when I was about 16 or 17, and my mum just paces up and down. She like holds her hands like that and just she watches us go past and like cheers us on, and then she just paces up and down, paces up. She's a nervous wreck all the way through racing, and I do, like I say, you do sort of feel a bit. One side of you feels a bit guilty for putting them through that, but the other side is it's what sort of what your life's all about. And
I think as a parent, if you can see your son or daughter doing something they're so passionate about that gives them so much enjoyment in life, even letting them ride around on a motorcycle, that you would, because because it's like what else would they do? Sometimes as well. But I think any parent will want their son or daughter to enjoy life. But crikey, I could find it a little bit less stressful than introducing your kids to motorcycle racing.
Speaking of mothers finding it difficult, so Dom's mum has Dom racing and a husband racing at the TT sometimes when they're both out.
We only do the roads.
They've set off together at the TT, so I can't even imagine what goes as your mum's like.
I'll tell you what, the biggest difference between I notice with road racing and short track racing, your engineers are at the side of you on a short track, and just as the 1 minute board goes up and they're picking everything up and walking off, they grab your hand and you go on son, get stuck in there today, go on, give it to him. Get Bayliss, giving them. Yeah. Right, don't be showing them any half doors and that, all that kind of chat before they go. I went to the TT and I was on the grid with McGuinness, because I was a teammate to McGuinness in 2000, and he was riding, and his engineer was there. 1 minute board came up, right, and I nearly got to McGuinness first. Luckily I didn't, right, because his engineer went up to him and went, "You bring it home today, right? Bring it home." And it weren't bring the trophy home, it was make sure you bring yourself home. And I was like, oh. Then I had to change all my little pep talk right there and then, because I was going to go to McGuinness going,
"Don't be a soft shite."
Flat out down Braille. If I hear any rolling off, you're going beers in tonight. You know what I mean? And so I had to go in, have a good one, mate. Like,
Yeah.
That's all. I couldn't think of anything else. Have a good one, pal.
James, if I ever see you roll up at the grid and you don't give me a pep talk like a proper one, going, "Don't be a soft shot," I'm like, "No problem, James. Let's have it, son." I'll be disappointed in you.
In terms of motorbike racing, that is one of the most intense things I've ever seen. Is when you're lining up at ready to go off one every
TT.
10 seconds,
different.
and that sort of
it's different. There's something in the air that's different, and you have to go and stand at the side of the track and look at the engineers with their riders and what they do and say to each other before the race on the TT lineup, compared to Silverstone grid at MotoGP or whatever. It's a different pep talk, that's for sure. And you need that, because Christ, those boys are brave around there. It's a different game.
Yeah. So
it means fuck all when you go down Bray Hill with your dad, mate. I tell you what, me and my dad, we're not friends. He's something more than that. He's my father. No.
I'm glad you went on with that.
No. Honestly, the thing is, I remember asking my dad. My God, it must have been less than 5 months. Dad, are we friends? He went, no, we're not friends.
You slipstream me down Bray Hill.
Yeah. I tell you what, honestly, that is the closest I've got to being proper mates with my dad. My dad was on a 750, like his mate Andy Brown bought him the bike, and I turned up on a slabby 750 classic TT. And anyway, we're pulling up, and my number was higher up because I did the TT prior to that.
Sure, man. What is it?
So we'll go Rich Energy. Get one down here. We'll be right to the moon here.
This is my maiden rich drink.
There you are.
I've seen them on.
We've got a BSB team.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Rich.
I'm waiting for this. Here we go.
Ooh,
we have an ooh. That'll be on the can next time. James Toseland says ooh.
That's not too bad, actually.
There you go.
Not too bad.
So what are you saying about?
Sorry,
it's a familiar taste, but I'll not say the comparison because that'll just ruin the whole thing for you.
Sorry, I sneezed there. Anywho, so I remember going off, and so I had a higher start number than my dad, and I'm waving everyone by, and I could see my mother in the corner of my eye just shaking her head at us because I'm waving everyone by to get me dad further up the grid. And I'm going, I'm not missing this for the world. Going down Bray Hill next to me dad. There's no bloody way I'm missing this. And I'm waving. I must have waved 20 lads by. You know what I mean? I'm going like that. And you can see the start line marshal shaking. Go get away from us. So anyway, my dad pulls up the smile. I could, when you proper smile in the lid, you could just see the cheekbones almost blocking out your eyes. Like he knows what's happening. So anyway, pull up next to each other. Well, I absolutely balls up the start. My dad flies off down Bray Hill. Right, I mean, I've never seen a man go on a quarter bridge like it. Both wheels off the ground, back to sideways, and we went all the way around the mountain. Like not even the mountain. So we came up through Kurt Michael. Rencullen up over, and there was 3 Manx Grand Prix lads. Bear in mind we're on classic Superbikes, proper bangers, and these lads were on fully tuned R6s. Bottom of Rencullen, me and my dad. I went on the outside, my dad went on the inside. All 3 of them, boom, like that. And I remember coming in. We did 2 laps, came in, big smile. My mum went, "Well," like, yeah, nothing happened, mother. Nothing happened. And you just think, like, when you're talking about that ecstasy in that, that moment, at that point, I'm not thinking, oh God, what happens if something happens to me dad?
Yeah.
I'm riding around going, this is the best thing. Yeah. If the lights get turned off right now,
I'll be happy.
This is the best moment of my life. You know what I mean? This is perfect. and
people have different passions in life, don't they? And some people can get those kind of feelings. Walking a dog, for example. On the beach that they've always want to walk on or something like that. But some people's level of trying to find that euphoric kind of feeling, it's but motorcycle racing gives you in abundance, like and the faster bikes that you ride and the faster tracks that you go, if you want a bit more, you've got it, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Maybe not on the CB500.
Have you ever done any parade laps or anything at the TT? Have you been around?
I lived there for 8 years, so
right. Yeah. You did it. So spend a lot of time.
I spent a lot of time. I lived in Ramsey for 5 years, so the mountain section was pretty quick.
Yeah,
at the end of it, both ways.
I bet.
Yeah, I could go just as fast to Ramsey from Douglas than it was Ramsey to Douglas.
Jesus, on bikes or cars or both?
No, just cars. Just cars. Yeah. Oh God.
What's like the most high performance car you've done a lap in?
Oh God, I my God! You've seen the Volvo in the garage, lads. I know. I could see the disappointment on your face when that garage door rolled up. So I am the most unflash guy with cars going, like. I want to embarrass myself. I had an S2000 Honda for the TT when I was riding for Honda, and that was the thing that we got for the weekend. But it was a shared kind of.
Did you enjoy living over there, by the way?
Yeah, I loved it. The to be a biker on the Isle of Man, I mean, it was lovely because it was. I moved there in 2005, so it was like all through the good times of doing really well and everything going really well. So, I used to walk in the cafes, hey James, blah 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 blah, and it was just lovely because everybody kind of knew your face a bit because it was so popular on the island, and it was the whole island was just like everybody was neighbours. Such lovely people. It was a long old winter on the Isle of Man, I must admit. I wish the island was somewhere else geographically on the planet because just left in Liverpool.
The crack over.
Yeah, just left in Liverpool and right at Belfast was a bit breezy, wasn't it? So
and a culture clash with accents. There you go. So go on, I've got to ask it then. You're about to ask it. Was that even scratching that itch, going around there racing there on a motorcycle? Was that ever on the cards for you going around the TT?
No, not as an opportunity to do it properly. I was just out of the era, where you had to do it really as a part of your little campaign to get a name for yourself. I mean, it was only kind of early 90s where Foggy and your Hislops and all that were still doing it because it was the thing to do. And the late 90s was definitely, I mean, obviously going from it being on the actual circuit of the Grand Prix back in the 60s and stuff, and then I think Barry Sheen complained about it, didn't he, and got it off the calendar in the 70s. So I'm not putting all the blame on Barry, but I think the Grand Prix riders knew that going from Silverstone to the Isle of Man TT, it was like, hang on a minute, there's a bit of a difference here,
massive difference.
So and then obviously late 90s, you didn't have to do it as part of your campaign to go. And I rode a CB500, and then I went on mixed 600. Honda then put me on a Fireblade that same year for the super stock just to try me out for a one-off race. Never tested it, never even went on it. And I went at Donington Park, finished 5th, and I beat Simo, who won the championship that year in that one-off race. And it was just crazy that year. Crazy. And then obviously after that, Honda signed me for Castrol Honda at 16 to go to World Championship. So that's how it was. It was junior, half a year of super teens, everything going like crazy. On the pit top, had a bit of a run round, won everything on CB500, 600, went to World Championship.
Wow.
That's how it all kicked off.
First year in World Super Sport with Castrol Honda. Who were the big sort of players in the championship that year?
I was teammates in Colin Edwards and Aaron Slight in the Superbikes, and my teammate was a guy called Mikael Packer, who was a lovely man. And in round 2 he got killed, and I broke my ankles in the same weekend at Monza, and so that was a real baptism of fire of what racing at world level was. We did Donington. Donington was the first race. I remember Superpole. It was Superpole, the first ever meeting for Superpole. They were trying it out as a concept, and it got cancelled halfway through because March, Donington Park started snowing. I always remember that. So that was cancelled. So yeah, that was the first race in 1998, and then I went to Monza for the second round, and we lost Michael, and that was because all the team was wiped out. I broke both my ankles. I crashed and bike landed on it. So. The whole team was wiped out for that, and then I had a couple of other teammates, Muggeridge, Per Rieber, who's Johnny Ray's chief engineer now, and Kurt McCarthy, he was a good lad. And that was my Castrol Honda. That was my first taste of world level. So the TT never then came back onto the scene because of that, because I was concentrating World Super Sport then for 2 years before I came back to the UK for British Superbikes. So, and then by the time by the time when the what would that be? That was like early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Then the TT, if you were a world class rider kind of thing, if you just got to the world level, it was something that you didn't even think about doing. Then it changed,
sort of separated.
Yeah.
When you came back to BSB, was that with the year with Paul Bird?
Mm. Yeah.
And on the Honda, was that?
Yeah, the SP1 Honda with I'd got John McGuinness on the 250, and little Scottish lad, Stuart Easton on the 125. Bless him.
Paul Bird must have been pretty young then.
Paul, yeah. Oh, I tell you what, he was a good-looking fella. Good-looking fellow, Paul. He was.
You'll be listening to this thinking, well, I still am.
I'll give James a call after this one.
We've all aged. But he was the George Clooney of the paddock back then. Just a real passion for it. Obviously coming from. Working with his dad's poultry farm and all the rest of it up there, and he was a fantastic rally driver, still is, and he just loved it. And I loved how much he just wanted to succeed. He wanted to win just as much as the riders, which is why he's been as successful.
I think he still does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Passionate about it. Good.
Who were you so? When you got into racing full time, 8-year-olds onwards, who were your icons at that point? So
Swans. Yeah,
straight off the bat. It's. I just find it brilliant how you went from literally piano, hopped on the back of a motorcycle, and went, "This is what I need." And then it's like your first icon. Like I'm very, very lucky. My dad's raced my entire life on classics.
Yep.
And that's what I looked at. There was no deviation. I didn't follow any other championships because the old man was the boy to beat, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so was it just straight away you had it, like you turned on the telly and went, I need to learn everything? I
was 88, 89, right? So I was born in 89 trials riding, and then went to motocross, and I realised that it was a proper Casey Stoner situation. My ambitions outweighed my ability massively, right? Riding motocross with a lot of bereaved frustration and anger, without getting to grips with actually getting some talent first.
Yeah, no flow.
Highly dangerous, I realised. But every time mid-air, I realised that I'd not quite got the hang of it yet, and I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And it hurt.
Where's that back brake?
that's why I got put off motocross. I thought, right, I need to stay on the floor, and when I'm on the floor, I'm fast.
I love that we've got a world champion here going. I learned to be on the floor quickly. Yeah.
So if I can stay on the ground, ride a motorbike on the ground, and not jump, because it was the jumps that really caught me out. If you're not practiced jumping and all you were doing is hitting everything flat out just because you're angry, it didn't work out too well. So that was 1991. So then I thought, right, okay, and I was short as well for a young teenager, so I wasn't really tall enough for motocross. So I thought, let's go road racing. So me and Ken road racing, Kajiva 80. So then
that was your decision to go to tarmac. It wasn't no directional pusher at that point.
Yeah.
In the middle kind of thing.
I started watching some road racing, and it was like me and Ken we just loved just motorcycling just in general, and then whether it be trials riding or motocross or road, whatever, we'd have a go at it. So luckily, and then obviously it's 92, 93 Swans, Pepsi, 500s. Oh, okay. Oh, I like this. I just went around a car park in Sheff, just to kind of get used to being on tarmac. And then I started watching it. And as soon as I started watching it, was 92, 93. Kevin Swans was the man, pulling wheelies and sticking his legs out. And after he won and like 1 foot wheelie and all that, I was like, oh my God, who's this dude? Because, you got your McDowans and, who else was there back then? I got the Rainers and the Roberts had all kind of gone by then. So
proper bloke, smoking tabs, drinking beer, slapping each other in the podiums, amazing. And press toast, get away from us. And it was proper.
What was Gardner and that? He was.
What was the first time that you met Schwanz?
Oh, I'll tell you, it will. When you went down Braille with your dad.
Aye.
This is same level, kind of level of excitement.
What, you wanted to beat Swans? Get on the bike, son. Here we go.
I'm in Laguna Seca, 1998, very first year going to World Championship level, very first year of leaving Sheffield to go anywhere other than Benidorm for a holiday, right?
Where they make the babies, apparently.
Yeah, good for babies. I'm in Laguna Seca, and I'm 17 years old, and do the race, and loved it. Just love Laguna Seca. And then I blagged my way in with the engineers, being in America, still 21 to drink, right? So I'm 3 or 4 years off still. So I'm in the middle of all the team trying to get into this bar, Blue Fin Bar, I think it was called, on the front. Anyway, I'm upstairs on the escalators, at the bar, and I'm amongst everybody to try and just hide all night with my little Jack Daniels and Coke. And anyway, night goes on. I get a tap on the shoulder, like a tap, and it's like a security guard tap.
Oh God!
And shit. So I didn't want to look round, but anyway, I looked round. Who's there? It's Kevin Swans. Taps me on the shoulder, and I don't know whether he's going to give me a bollocking because I'm too young. I'm thinking that's far too cool for that. You know what I mean?
You're hoping he's too cool for that.
And he just said, "Hey man, I saw you race this. So this is your first time Laguna?" I said, "Yeah, first time it's been." I said, "I was watching you at the corkscrew." He said, "You're doing really well." I said, "To come here and do the corkscrew like that," I said, "Really, really impressive. Well, I look forward to seeing your progress." And walked off. Can you imagine?
I bet your knees were just like
that was his chat, and he came. I don't know where he was in the bar at the time, where he thought, that's that young lad. I was 17 years old, just started, so nobody knew anything, and he just came and tapped me on the shoulder to say that, and then obviously I got his poster on my wall, right, and then he tapped me on the shoulder to do that. I was like, oh my God! I mean, you when you're that age, you don't realise just what people do because they're just nice people, and you're not accustomed to all the levels at that point, are you?
Yeah.
And then even at this point now, telling that story at 41 years old, and I was 17, it still gives me warmth that a man of his stature, a legend like that, would take his little bit of time out just to say, "Oh, you did well there, mate. Good luck."
How cool is that?
That is outstanding.
Yeah, amazing.
I bet you just went, I'll get the next round in, lads, straight to the bar like that. Going, excuse me and my friends want a drink.
To be honest, I can't remember the next few hours after that. I was just buzzing. Yeah.
So going back to back to BSB after a few years in World Supersport, because the last time you were at in the British tracks would have been the first year on the 600. So in reality, you didn't have a great deal of experience at like Cadwell, Norton and stuff. How did you, going back to superbikes, how did that go?
Well, I did 98 and 99 in Supersport, in World Supersport, and it wasn't an overly successful campaign. I missed half the first year with 2 broken ankles, trying to come back, and then the next year, the Honda on the Michelin tyres wasn't the package to be on at all. It was the Ducati 749 and the Suzuki's back then, and the Yams a bit. So it was a really tough 2 years, but I learnt the tracks, I learnt the paddock a bit, and I learnt who was in the paddock and that. And so it was not wasted, but I thought it was very difficult to then get back. So I had to come back. I was at the NEC show in 1999, and Roger Harvey and Neil Tuxworth, he said, what are you doing next year? I said, I don't know. So what do you mean you don't know? I said, I've got nothing signed. So I've got no manager. I've got no. I'm at the NEC show with no plan, but I'm just there. I didn't even realise I'd got no job almost. Like I knew I wasn't riding for them next year, but I was at the motorcycle show thing. I just didn't know that you had to sort something else out. I didn't realise I wasn't going to be riding again if someone hadn't have asked that question. Mm-hmm. So he said, "What? You got nothing?" I said, "No." I said, "Have you not got anybody looking after?" I said, "No. Kestrel don't want me anymore, so I ain't got anything going on." I said, and then. He pulled Paul Bird up. Like, this is how it went at the NEC show, and he said, you running a superbike? Says, yeah. Do you want to do British Supersport with so and so? I went, well, I've already done Supersport, to be honest, and I've done that. I said, I'm 19 years old, so to go on a superbike was unusual at 19 back then. I said, have we got superbike? I said, well, Birdie's running the new SP, the new twin SP1's going to come out. Do you want to do that? Yeah, I'll do that.
Just like that.
Like that. That's how the conversation went. And we didn't get the bike before a week before the championship started. So I had to test all that winter on. Birdie had a 500 twin thing. Remember the 500 twins 2-strokes that used to compete in the 500 days? He had one of them. Like Jubinau rode one, and I think Leon Aslam rode one as well when he was young. Like
he was like 19 or 20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I did all my winter testing at Mallory Park, freezing cold on one of them, and then 1 week before the race came, I got the SP1, and then oh god, it was so slow. My god, Neil Hodgson passed me on the GSC Ducati at Snetterton, and I'm not kidding you. He blew me onto the grass. That's how much faster he was. And we always laughed at, because I was his teammate after that. Mm-hmm. We laughed. He says, "Oh my god, I remember how slow that Honda was." Says, "Yeah." But so I was trying to catch up a bit of time, and I crashed at Cadwell Park in August and smashed my femur into 3 places, and my leg was wrapped around my head on the floor. I landed, and my leg was under my head.
Jesus!
And it took 45 minutes for the air ambulance to come. Took the hospital, and I had a spiral fracture down my femur, a 19-inch rod down it, and all the rest of it. And so I needed half a year of that year. So. And then, but because I'd done pretty well on a slow bike at the beginning, GSC won the championship with Neil Hodgson with a big battle with Chris Walker in 2000. And Colin Wright, he took note because I just beat, this is why, I beat Niall Mackenzie at Alton Park to 5th on this SP1. And because I beat Niall on the fast Ducati, I think Niall was in trouble, but he noticed I'd done pretty well. So he rang. He then got Roger Burnett, who was my manager then from that point on, because he rang Roger, because Roger Burnett managed Neil Hodgson, right? And the team were going from British Superbike to World Superbike in 2000 after they won with Neil. And Neil was not cheap because he was British Superbike champion. He was moving up. They needed a cheap teammate for him. And luckily for me, him and Chris Walker couldn't stand each other, because it was going to be him and Chris at one point, but they had a massive fallout because, well, It depends whose fan you are, who took each other out. Alton Park, yeah. So it was a big court case job. So they wanted someone young and cheap, and Roger Burnett came up to me and said, "Look, Colin Wright's been in touch with me, wants to talk to you. Would you interested?" So at Donington Park, the last race in 2000, they just win the championship. I'm on crutches still from this crash with Birdie.
Wow.
Right. Colin wants to see you. Oh, right. Oh, shit. So I dumped me crutches in Birdie's hospitality. I thought, I can't go into an office with crutches. That's not much of a selling point, is it? You know what I mean?
I'll be good. I'll be back out
Trust
there,
me,
coach.
pal. I'll be on it in a minute.
I'm good, coach.
Coming in, wheeling in a wheelchair. Don't worry, mate. Your money's safe with me, pal.
Just put an extra 0 on that contract. Yeah, we'll talk.
And so I was trying to walk as straight as I could, but it was. I tell you what, it was bad. So I hobbled into
yourself.
Yeah, literally. I walked into a truck, and it was a seating situation like this with a table in minimum. And hi, Colin, right? Yeah, I'm all right. And he was busy because he'd just won the championship. All the team was celebrating, like fully celebrating, because it was the last race. Chris Walker broke down like with laps to go.
Yeah.
They won. Like it was Neil Hodgson coming with his leathers on still. This is a couple of hours after the race. Absolutely leathered. Like, right, James. So, and they had a piece of paper on the table already. Colin Wright doesn't do small talk anyway. I don't know if you bumped into him, but he's pretty strong.
I rode under Colin for, do you know when he came back and he was running for the Halsall team?
Right. Oh, yes.
So he sacked Tommy Bridewell.
That's right.
And I ended up riding the bike for a few rounds that year.
Right.
So I know Colin pretty well.
Right. So, he runs a tough ship, and he was perfect for me in those early years. And he went, "Oh, yeah, James, 2-year contract to be Neil Hodgson's teammate, World Superbikes."
Wow.
Says, how much do you want?
At 19-year-old,
19. Yes.
19
I was
year old.
still 9. No, I was. My birthday's October, so if
1920, yeah. So,
Was Roger? Did he bring you in with Roger?
No.
Oh, so he asked you directly. Roger
just said, Colin's thinking about this, and I'm pushing for you. And then Colin just rang me at in the paddock to come into the truck, and that's exactly how it was.
I must ask, when you walked in there, was that, how much would you have gone for, or was it a free? Like, where was your mind? I just want to be out there.
I said, I'll do it for free.
That's what I mean. So when he asked you, slid that bit of paper over and said, "How much do you want, son?"
I said, I'll do it for free. To his face.
Mm-hmm. Sign there. I bet he was like, sign there.
And that's the first time and only time I've seen Colin Wright a little bit speechless.
I bet.
Lost for words a little bit. And he went, and because he laughed a little bit, and then I went, "I'll do it for free," and he was like, no, you don't ride for us for free. And he said, so I said, well, Birdie paid me 30 grand, so if you give me 30 grand, I'll do it for 30 grand. So 30 grand, done.
Wow.
That was a conversation of my deal to sign the contract for the first 2 years of
Was that your first? Sorry, was that your first contract ride that like paid? No. Paul Bird. Sorry, you did say 30
No,
grand.
Castellano was 30 grand.
Right, there we go then.
So it's 16 years old was 30
16,
grand.
you earned 30 grand. Wow.
Yeah.
I have to cut a lot of trees for that. Anyway,
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is different times.
But still.
I mean, to get paid 30 grand now to do World Supersport as a British Supersport rider with just potential, not knowing any of the tracks or anything, right? You'd have to take 150 grand with you to get a ride these days.
It's crazy how much the sport's changed in such a short period of time.
There's Mackenzie. Yeah, he had to pay for a ride at World Superbike.
It's just won the British Superbike Championship, and he was asked to bring a few quid to Worlds. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really different. I mean, I sold myself a bit short then, but I mean, 2-year deal to ride a semi-factory Ducati in World Superbikes, a proper bike and a proper team. I sold myself short. But I didn't sell myself short on the investment. So So
and then 2 years. So the first year, kind of running number 2 to Neil and sort of learning the Ducati on the big tracks and stuff, and pretty sort of consistent. Did you finish about 13th in the championship that year?
Yeah,
and then the second year was much higher up,
7th.
Working towards it.
Yeah, and again, I did 3 years with GSE to finish 13th, then 7th. And still get a job. I'm forever thankful for GSC Racing, Colin Wright, and everybody that worked for that team for sticking with me, to seeing the potential, but to develop me. I had my age on my side. I was very unusual at World Superbike to be riding at 20 in my first year. So I had that on my side. But there ain't too many riders these days that goes 13th, 7th. Can we sign him again?
Obviously,
you don't get a third year after them 2 years, do you, usually?
No.
Well, obviously, like I said, at that age and seeing the sort of progression, I always remember the first time, I think it was the first meeting that I ever rode for Colin, and I didn't test the bike or anything, and I was running in super stock at the time, so it was kind of like difficult to know what to expect. But we had a bit of a meeting after qualifying, and I remember him saying, right, the goal is to try and get points. To get points, you need to finish within 30 seconds of the leader. This was at Knockhill. He said, as long as you're 30 seconds, you will get a point. Anyway, I went out and I think I either broke down or crashed or whatever, and I came in and the person that was 15th was like 29.6 seconds or 30.8 seconds, and I thought, bloody hell, that's unbelievably accurate, but I thought it could possibly be a fluke. And then it was like the next round, say like Thruxton, I was, after free practice, I was like, say, 20th overall in times. And he said, right, I've been looking at the times, and you'll finish, as long as you stay on, you'll finish 10th. And I was thinking, like, well, I'm 21st, so it's a bit optimistic. You know, I went out and I was 8th on the last lap, and I came around and I P8, 1 lap to go, and I thought, I'm going to, like, outdo him. Anyway, Tyron McKenzie and Mason Law both passed us, and I finished 10th. And I was like, how on earth did you know that?
You would have loved that as well.
Yeah, it was incredibly accurate for, like, predictions and looking at, like, averages and, like, just weirdly, like...
You did yourself a favour losing those 2 places, because if you'd have pissed him off by finishing 8th...
That would be the end of it.
That was worse than finishing 21st, pal.
But
the understanding of racing and the knowledge and the history that those boys had and have, I mean, it's that's where, for a young kid like yourself, when you rode, or for a 20-year-old me, it was just invaluable. You know, to have someone in your corner, you've qualified 21st, right, and you go, right, if you do everything right, and you don't make any mistakes today, you could finish 10th, right? Just having a manager that kind of understands the racing game that much, but can tell you that, seriously, with conviction, gives you so much confidence.
I'm sure he's told us a story about... Did you not have a problem where you kept being ill, and then he found out it was like there was some shit in your water bottle or something?
The straw.
Yeah, tell the story of this, because Colin's told me about this.
God. How embarrassing. I mean, I had a bottle, you know, like, and you get your little favourite lucky bottle, like, with your straw, like, and you got your little, I had a little sticker on, my JT sticker on, 52, like, dear, I'm surprised you let me have that, to be honest. I got there, I always trained hard, so fits fiddle, Wednesday, Thursday, out on Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, feeling a bit under the weather. Sunday, I was like having those thingy injections in your ass to straighten you up again, like your temperature and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, I had a couple of them on Sunday nights, and it's like, something's going on. We were in Australia, I remember, and Neil Hodgson was getting his stuff out, this obvious thing, his leathers, and getting it. He was really like OCD about it, and then I was as well, like, so we're getting everything all sorted. And then Roger said, "Oh, give us your bottle, Neil. I'll go and clean that out." And I said, "Oh, give us your James. I'll do them both at the same time." And he went, "Fuck it, what the fuck?" Like, and it was full of green mold. This thing, I didn't know you had to clean straws out or anything. I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like, and all weekend I've been sucking through this straw of,
you're necking penicillin for a giggle, yeah.
literally, like, seriously, like, hospitalisation ill by the time Sunday night come, like, horrendously ill. Like, I was riding around in the second race, because there was 2 races on a Sunday back then. I was riding around in the second race, like, with 6 laps to go, absolutely hanging out my arse, thinking, hang on, what's going on? Like, so, and, yeah.
I bet Hodgson's going, damn it, he's figured it out. I've been putting mould in that bloody bottle for ages.
Yeah. What's going on? I bet you had a right laugh with Neil travelling the world and, like, the rest of the team, and, like, he's such a nice guy.
Neil was the one of the rare teammates I can say was just a genuine friend, and I didn't make friends too easily in the paddock, because I was so serious and so particular about stuff, and I think because of the way I started my career as being a loner, right, I wasn't used to socializing, and I wasn't used to kind of socializing with other people that wanted to beat me at something I really wanted, and I couldn't separate all that. So I was a bit of an outcast, and I felt like an outcast, but I think it was just because of the nature of my upbringing inside the sport. I just saw races as somebody that was trying to take something off me, and I couldn't ever separate that with the helmet on or helmet off. So, but Neil was one of the guys that broke through that, and we're still fantastic friends, and we worked on beach sport together and all the rest of it, but we're still fantastic friends from that. And the things he said to me and gave me tuition on how to ride a superbike in those first 2 years was a massive, massive reason why I was a world champion at 23 and not 25 or 6, because he really, really helped. And he let me follow as well. Not many riders let you follow. And there was a couple of occasions where I nearly took him out, like trying to keep up, and I shouldn't have been. It was a bit of a motocross, like hitting the jumps flat out kind of a situation, because he was quite a bit faster than me when I first started. I remember a couple of occasions where he got a bit annoyed with me because I was a bit close when I was just trying to hang on to him. But that dragged me up so quick to him. A lot to thank for Neil.
And obviously working with him all those years later, you were both at BT when the MotoGP first went to BT as well, wasn't it? And it was who was the lady? Mel Sykes who started. Yeah. Oh, I remember that first. Chaos. Yeah, I remember. Well, I've heard you speak about it as well. And it must have been so difficult, like a new news channel, and because you were front man as well, weren't you, on the TV with Mel?
I was the pundit. I was the pundit to Mel, but because Mel of her experience with motorcycling and all the rest of it, and she'd not done a live broadcast on site at a motorcycle event. MotoGP, it's not like a Thundersport event with nice little quiet four strokes. You stand at the side of a MotoGP track, even Moto3 and Moto2 now, they're unbelievable. Like, so we get to the side of the circuit just before we go on air. We've done all the rehearsal, everything, nothing's cracked up yet, you know what I mean? Everything's fine. All of a sudden, I'd got in ears, you're trying to hear a director producing all the rest of it in your ears, trying to tell you what we're doing next and what's happening. Oh my God.
Was that your first
stressful
in terms of TV work? Had you been?
Yeah.
Oh, was that your first?
Yeah. I'd done a couple of. I've been in the studio a couple of times, just as a one-off as I was racing. But
it must be incredibly difficult with
talkback
when you're not used to that skill, and being live on TV in front of like millions of people.
My God, such an experience.
Were you not in music at this point?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was quite an easy thing to...
I had a deal with BT where if a gig came in, I was able to give notice that I wasn't going to be doing the show. So
right.
That was a setup.
I just mean...
I didn't miss many, though. I only missed like one or two races because of shows. Yeah, but I was juggling both, yeah.
I just mean like, that initial inertia, thinking the music and like, the sound of the engines, it was like total different environment, totally different. Yeah,
but that was 14. I retired in 11, so I'd done 3 years. The band was established, kind of thing. That was up and rolling, so they weren't both started at the same time. But yeah, to get the in-ears in with the producers, like I remember with a funny one with Susie Perry in Mazzano, and I was still getting used to the terminologies a little bit, and we'd got. What's
Paolo Nutini.
Paolo Nutini. How did you know I was going to say that? Obviously. Got Paolo Nutini and Martin from the Rain Band at the side, and we were talking about the charity for Marco Simoncelli, raising money and all the rest of it, right? And I've got in my ears, 5 more minutes to stop talking. I thought, Christ. And that's what came through to my ears, 5 minutes stop talking. So we'd almost kind of wrapped up this interview, right? And I got that in my ear. So all of a sudden, I'm going, oh, Christ, 5 minutes. I don't usually talk to my mum for 5 minutes, never mind somebody I don't really know.
Yeah.
I ain't got 5 minutes to chat with anybody. So I was like, oh, what tour are you on, Paulo? You're from Scotland, aren't you? Proper small talk. I'm pulling out all the stops. Have you got any dogs or not?
New shoes.
Literally. And just name us that charity again. What is it? www.
proper stringing the
I'm
shit out of it.
stringing it out. And Susie's kind of like, she's nudged me. I'm thinking, stop nudging me. I'm holding this together for us. Literally. I didn't realise she was nudging me to shut up. But the 5 minutes to stop talking was the 5 minutes to the end of the show, right? So 4 minutes, 45 seconds, I'm still asking Paulo about his trousers and his tour and his dog and all the rest of it. And Susie, anyway, that's all we've got time for. Anyway, thanks. We'll see you again. Off. And Susie had a right go at me, right? And then the producer, what the hell was all that about? We kept saying the time for the show to finish and all the rest of it. I went, what? I said, you said 5 minutes to stop talking. That's I just assumed that in 5 minutes I'll stop talking. We had such a laugh about it afterwards when they realised I wasn't just trying to take over the show. They just thought I was like wanting to like present the show. I thought I was doing Susie a massive favour because I had a bit of new music knowledge with Paulo and Tini. Oh, don't worry, Susie, I've got this. I
wonder if Paulo was talking about that interview now. You should have seen this one I did years ago, lads. It was
like, Jesus Christ.
I don't even have a dog.
I've got 6 more interviews here today, mate.
Do you enjoy all the TV work and sort of obviously you've got a lot of knowledge about the sport and a lot of inside information. Do you enjoy sort of broadcasting that to the fans at home? I
do now. I always did kind of think it was always difficult it was difficult for a long time to be at the track and not ride or race. So it took having to finish racing with an injury. It's like it was very, very similar to a bereavement, right? And I've noticed over the years with bereavements, give me 8 or 10 years and I straighten out again, right? But it's a good 8 to 10 years before that dies down, to where the fog clears and you can do things normally again that don't remind you or twist a knife in, you know. So it has taken a decade from finishing racing to be in a paddock, talk about it, and actually enjoy it, just without doing it. Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I've noticed recently, and I guess it must be so difficult commentating on a sport where you kind of, you know, the people involved and you're sort of friends with a lot of people, it's difficult to be impartial and like speak your mind. So because you know, if I, like, for example, if I was speaking about like say even on this podcast we talk about BSB and stuff, but like most of the BSB riders are kind of like my mates or like I would speak to, so in the back of your mind you don't want to be, you kind of, it's a difficult one because you want to give your honest opinions and be credible to the people who are listening, but you also, if you really think somebody's like cocked up, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, whatever. And it's one thing I think, well, I appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people at home appreciate it, is you're very honest with your commentary, and you really, like, out of all the commentators, I would say you probably call a spade, like
it's the piano lesson bully days, you know. You know what's been like from if you get bullied as a kid, it comes out at some point.
We're really peeling back the layers on this show, aren't we?
That's it. But like that's it. It just comes out.
He's getting it.
He's getting it today. It's in a devil.
That would look like a clean move. No, it was not.
No, but I do because I can. I feel with the credentials I've got.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, damn right.
I've ridden for Ducati, I've ridden for Yamaha, I've ridden for Honda, I've ridden for BMW in the Superbike Championship. I won with 2 manufacturers, and most of the team personnel are the people that I've worked with, and I know how they work, I know how they do things, and I know who they are and what they're about. Mm-hmm. And if I can see a certain decision that's made on the track or off the track in a certain way, that I can see a career going in a certain path and all the rest of it, then I have a lot more foresight of what the outcomes could possibly be because of my experiences, and because of that I can say it how it is a little bit. I mean, I hope I'm, you know, I say I give my opinion straight, and it's and I said a few things about Scott Redding's decision to go to BMW. Whether it is his own decision or Ducati's decision to drop him or whatever, I don't know what I'd have to, because you're not at the paddock. Obviously, you don't get to find out the details a little bit. But to leave a red factory Ducati to go to a white BMW, right? It has never been the preferred option ever since Ducati started in 1988. So, I know the history, and I know the, you look at Van der Mark from Yamaha to BMW, and you look at his results, his hard results on paper from the Yam to the BMW, right?
It's a game of numbers. It's a game of numbers. You look at results, you look at times, you look at everything.
And it's World Superbikes, right? It's the pinnacle, right? So, as a rider, I did it myself, and that's why I say. And the things that I'm so kind of like critical about sometimes, or I have a strong opinion, say, about it, right? It's because I've made the same mistakes myself. I know, and that's why I'm saying it. It's like I'm not whiter than white, and I've never made the mistakes. I've got the strong judgment on it because I made the same mistakes when I was a kid, or younger. So it's yeah. But I'm pleased that most people enjoy it. I got a text message from Scott Redding's uncle actually saying he's getting a bit annoyed with the things I'm saying about it, and I know his uncle really really well, and he's a top bloke, right? But I noticed when you're in a studio with Eurosport commentating and seeing what I'm seeing through my eyes with what I know, with the riders that are doing the things and the decisions that they make, it's a separate thing. Commentating is a separate thing to actually what you talk about in the paddock when you're there. And I have to say what I'm seeing. But it's nothing personal at all. I would have said that decision that Scott did, for example, I'm just using the Scott thing as an example, or the Jonathan Ray Magny Core thing with the green thing. There's been things where I've had a strong opinion on, but I would have said that about any rider.
Yes,
any rider. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, it's it is what it is.
Without people like yourself, it's just, you don't want to tune into it, do you? You know, if everyone was all picking daisies and everything like that. But I totally agree with you, though. You are literally the most qualified person to say that, and without making it personal. So keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, on the Scott Redding thing, if he goes to BMW next year, right, and he's as successful, right, and he takes trophies home, there won't be a more happier guy. And I can tell you that for nothing, because I tell you what, he'll have to ride as well, if not better, to do that, right, as it stands. If the Ducati and the BMW will look like they're as competitive as they are as comparison to this year. But if the BMW all of a sudden comes up with the Sean Muir's team and all the rest of it, and him and Van der Mark are now consistently on the podium, like, the Donington round, I'd be like, fair play, absolutely fair play. But and that's the thing about commentating, as I feel, as what I'm seeing there and then, I'll tell you what's happening there and then, because you have to. That's your job,
of course,
right? If I sit on the fence or contemplate or procrastinate on something, right? Well, that's not commentating, is it?
No, it's not.
I would have a hell of a lot more respect for someone that makes a prediction. And even if it's a little bit like referees in football, you would prefer them to give their opinion and say it, even if they're wrong. The thing I hate the most is if they sit on the fence and then after it plays out, go, well, I knew that was going to happen. So you're like, well, if you think that, say it. But people aren't stupid. People who listen to Bike Racing and watch Bike Racing appreciate that honesty. And at the end of the day, you're paid for an expert opinion, and that's what you're given.
And I tell you what, my direct view on something. It'll be, I don't think it's a 50-50 thing. I think 60 or 70% of the time I'll be right, but at least 30 or 40% sometimes I'll be wrong, and I won't I don't mind admitting that I'm wrong. But I would give myself about a 60% win ratio on my opinion about how something's going to pan out in World Superbikes.
Can you think of the biggest sort of misjudgment that you've made?
Yeah, Scott Redding cycling from Spain to Portugal, and I said that's an absolute risk, and I stand by it. To cycle like 8 or 9 hours a day when you're still challenging for the championship, and you're sat in a saddle with all of that exertion and that you're putting yourself through, instead of resting between the weekend, because it was back to back, right? I said that definitely wasn't the thing to be doing, because if he went out and crashed in race 1, I know Ducati, I know Serafino, I've known him for years, right? It'd be because he shouldn't have cycled. He can't concentrate, he's tired or whatever, right? I even had it personally with the piano playing. If I crashed, he's concentrating on the music too much. He's playing his piano too much.
Just finding something to blame.
Something to blame. Don't give these guys in that paddock anything to blame, because every manager, right, every engineer, they're all got a job, right, and they all want to keep that job. If you don't do the results, right,
they're trying to blame.
There's not many. They go, sorry about that. Not my fault. And it's very much cutthroat like that in the paddock. So if you do things like that,
you're given ammunition.
Big time. But then he went out and I think he was second in the first race, just right. And I was like, crikey. I said, I might be late for work tomorrow, Greg. I'm cycling to work tomorrow, just taking the mick out of myself. And then I now said, I'm cycling back to Sheffield tonight and just taking the mick out of myself because, I mean, Scott did an amazing job and backed it up that what didn't affect him and his results. But if it was
your point still stands, though.
It does still stand, because I tell you what, if he got Colin Wright as a team manager, I know for a fact, because I think he had 3 seconds that weekend in Portugal. I think, just off my memory. If he had Colin Wright as a manager, if he hadn't to cycle from Spain, he'd have had 3 wins, possibly. And he would have looked you straight in the eye and said something like that. You know what I mean? That's how it is.
With Colin, did you generally get? Did you have many sort of run-ins with him, or did?
Oh yeah. You had run-ins with Colin all the time. He always used to say, James, I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong. Remember that.
That's brilliant.
That's what he used to say to me. That's what he used to say to me as a rider. And that's when he'd just gone a bit too far. He realised that he wasn't right, and that's as close as you got to an apology with Colin Wright. Mm-hmm. And I got taken out in Misano once, and he said, James, that was a bit your fault. And I went off on one a bit because it was dangerous, right? And I could have really hurt myself, and it shook me a bit. So when Colin pointed, I went, right, I'm not having that. We're having a meeting kind of thing. I said, look, we'll get the footage, and I talked him through the footage. All right, James, just remember, I'll accept it. But remember, I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong. Brilliant.
That's a cracking saying that.
While we're talking about the commentating job, what do you find what's the hardest part of the job for you?
Having an opinion on my colleagues, friends, and that it's not comfortable. It isn't comfortable to air your opinion about other people that are striving to succeed. And there's going to be a winner and there's always going to be a loser and everything in between, and mistakes are going to be made because that's just the nature of the game. And to commentate on it and to have your opinion on what's happening where and when you've got a personality like mine that kind of I haven't got much of a filter, I kind of just say what's on my mind a little bit, a bit of an open book. It's not all going to be positive, that's for sure. So, and to say things that aren't that positive about it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody.
Have you made any faux pas or accidentally said something and then
No. Luckily not yet.
Not yet. At this time,
I've got a couple of names wrong, and I was trying to pronounce Top Rack's surname on a couple of occasions when I first started. Oh my god, it sounded like a washing machine was breaking down.
I always do. It's one of those names that I've from. The first time I've seen it, I've always thought, "Oh, that's a difficult name," so I've just stuck with Top Rack. And
exactly. I've never even tried. That's me. But no, there's been a couple. I remember. Is it? Oh, I can't. I'll not name any names, but there was one where they were on air and they didn't realise they were on air, and someone said, "Are we on air?" And they said, "I hope not, because if we are, I'm fucked." And that's what went out on it. Like that as well. And then all of a sudden you got your producer in your ear. You're on it, James. You're on it. I hope not. Or I'm fucked. That's what he came out on. And there was.
Please tell me that's on YouTube somewhere. That's got to be, isn't it?
Oh God. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this because this is like commentating on the racing. This is like having an opinion on my new teammates, isn't it? Like I remember someone getting gang raped into turn 1.
Fantastic.
I'll leave you to find out who said that one.
Honestly.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
Yeah. I think this particular rider got overtaken by a couple of people down the straight in the slipstream into thing, and all of a sudden that was his opinion. That was his opinion on it.
I tell you, it must be so difficult though. Like, no, if you like say,
Totally out of body experience. This is, oh my god.
if you're speaking for hours and hours, you're bound to like cock
Mess
things
up.
up and say something you're not supposed to or whatever. And like, there's so many terms, like phrases and expressions that you would maybe use with your friends that obviously not suitable for air, and to like sort of to make sure that you don't, do you know what I mean? Like keep those separate and stuff. It is a difficult job.
When you brought up in the north, like in Sheffield as well, I mean,
Oh.
if I talk to my friends, I mean, there isn't many sentences without something that you can't say on air.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So to filter and iron that out, I don't know how I do it sometimes, to be honest. And I've moved back up north like a few years ago, and it's been a disaster for the nerves. I have to have a deep breath and go give one of them proper reset. And, oh god, because just my normal lingo up here. It's filth.
It's proper, son.
Filth, proper filth.
Proper filth, son. I like it.
Anyway, we got up to, so you had your 2 years with GSE, 13th in the first year, 7th in the next year, and then you moved to it was the other Ducati team, wasn't it?
No, I had 3 years with GSE.
Oh, did you have the
with Chris Walker in 03?
Right.
So
okay.
2 years with Neil, 1 year with Chris Walker. I finished third that year. Won the piano in Oschersleben, Germany.
That is a beautiful piano, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. HM Plant, John and Kath, the sponsors of the team, the Escobar company in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are where you boys are from, and they said if you win a race for us, because they'd never won a World Superbike race because we were a semi-factory team and the factory team was obviously a bit stronger. So, and Oschersleben, Germany, 2003, all of a sudden, we got these Japanese Dunlops instead of the European ones, and I've never ridden on something so sticky in all my life. And put it in second place, which was unusual on the front row for us at that time. And then I rode around the first and realised that the win was on. And John had always said, if you win a race for me, I'll buy the piano of your dreams. And it was broadcast by Susie Perry and BBC that year. They knew about this offer from John because we'd all had a meal. And John had said, look, if he wins, we're going to buy him a piano, because everybody knew how passionate I was about playing. So came across the line first. Neil Hodgson and Chris Walker were all full British podium. I'd spoilt Neil's day. I'm surprised we are still mates, because that was for the record consecutive victories, for 10 victories on the trot, and I spoilt it for him. So he's forgiven me though. So and I got a full Grand 9 Steinway, and the BBC. It was the BBC then, and they covered it. They went to the shop in Steinway in London and walked in. They had 4 handmade, obviously, or four in the shop. They take your pick, and incredible. And it cost me a fortune though, because I tried to change the deal with John and Kath, because I had a 1-bedroom flat in Rotherham at the time, and I couldn't fit the piano in. So I said, if I buy the piano, John, will you buy me a house so I could fit the piano? He wasn't up for it.
I'll buy you a shipping container. We'll just put it in that.
It took me about 18 months to be able to afford a house for them to bring me the piano.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I tell you what a hell of a front room that is. You know, when you're like, oh, lads, go and have a look, and walk in. I'm about to put my hand on the piano. I went, how much is that worth? You went, 130 grand. I'll just take my hand away.
I know that one wasn't. That is now. That's what they are roughly now.
But my God, you can see it though.
BBC got a deal. But I tell you what, not much of it. It was a bloody expensive bonus, I tell you. Yeah.
And for our listeners, another music fact: Elton John only plays Yamaha pianos. There's another thing I've learned this evening.
Well, it was from watching that the Elton John DVD in the hospitality where John realised that it was such a passion for me, and just a lovely, lovely couple, lovely people, and But
it's lovely. Especially, I know, like say through lockdown and through, you're talking about like an escape. It must be really, like, I don't play a musical instrument. I really wish I did, but it must be so nice to just like sort of escape into the room and just get sort of, it's almost like a form of meditation, really, isn't it? Like being fully focused on, like, it's a hell of a skill.
It was perfect. It was perfect, and because who I was and how I was and how intense it was because of the history that it came from. It was just always intense. I was always wanting and needing to win and succeed because of all of the frustration. Do you know, if I could go, I was actually saying this about what would you say to your 15-year-old again? And I really wish I could have had a racing career that I could have had a mentality that was just with his dad, that just enjoyed it and went through the ranks like that. Because I had a whole career of my career was with anger. And I'm certain that's why I was so successful at it. But I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I possibly could have done because of it. You know, it was just a tool to take my anger out on and frustration out on. And I wish it wasn't. You know, when I was teammates with Rossi and Lorenzo and Edwards in GP, I really envied, like my brother's. He was so content with stuff. I just envied Rossi's relaxed state about everything, his approach to racing, and how much he enjoyed it. And his dad was there, obviously he's famous as well, but it was like I watched him, Rossi and his dad on a few occasions on some event, and I was like, oh god, I wish I could approach my racing like that. I probably wouldn't have been as successful, maybe, with the talent level I had compared to Rossi. But I wish if I'd have had, if I could have wished for anything else, I would go through a career with a different reasoning for doing it. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Now, when you manage riders now, is that quite hard not to? Because you've gone through that experience of aggression.
Mm.
When someone comes up and asks for that advice from you, how do I do this? Is that must
I
be
don't know how to do it. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Exactly that. It's like, you don't need to have gone through what I went through, and light that bonfire inside you because of that.
Yes.
To be successful, you don't. But the problem is if a rider come to me and said, James, I've just lost my dad and I'm a bit on my own and I just need a bit of support. Like, I would connect to that kid so much, right? And I'd know what was going on and why he was doing stuff and what it was all about. But if I'd just got like a lad and a dad, happy just enjoying it, it would be a much more difficult kind of approach on how do I then manipulate who he is to more of how I did it, because I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's
dynamics.
Yeah. Your mental approach to something is an individual thing, and I think it should be kept that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll teach you your technique. I'll teach you organisation. I'll teach you your how to prepare, your fitness, and how to approach your weekend, and how to segregate everything: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What session have we got? We've got 45 minutes, so we're going to be coming in 3 times, possibly 2 if everything's okay, and really organising that structure out to find the consistency. And when everything's organised, you have less to think about, so you can concentrate more on the job.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that with anybody and any kid, and I did it with Danny Webb, and he really enjoyed that and all the rest of it. But as far as if someone said, I need to change my mental attitude to this, I don't think that's possible.
Well, one thing, looking through your results and you like race by race and year by year and stuff, one thing that massively stands out for being the youngest person ever to win a World Superbike Championship, even to this day, and be twice. I think there's only you and Troy Corser that have won on 2 different manufacturers. Which, when you think of something like Jonathan Ray, who's been so dominant, it wasn't very close on winning on the Honda. That you can think of lots of examples that people have clicked with a manufacturer, but to do it on 2 manufacturers is incredibly impressive. But in that whole time, there's 2 things that stand out. One of them is at the end of this. So, like, for example, when you first won the championship in 2004, how at the end of the season, when you're in a championship battle, and it becomes really like the pressure's massive at the end of the championship. That didn't seem to, if anything, the result that finished that season was like unbelievably strong. So I know you mentioned earlier about the sort of the weight that you had on the shoulders was nothing, like having the world championship at stake was nothing compared to what you already had. And you can kind of see that, you know, your mental strength towards the end of the season you must have been in a very strong position.
Yeah. The occasion matched the intensity I'd got myself, so it didn't overwhelm me because of that. And that was, so I should be thankful for what I went through, because sat on the grid in Magny-Cours in 2004 and 2007 with the world title on the line against Regis Laconi or Nori Haga and Biaggi, it was not on par with what was with the bonfire that was going on inside me personally. And I think because of the intensity with the bonfire of everything going on inside, it kept other things at bay, you know, because it was so all-consuming, that emotion, that need and desire to try and harness this. I didn't think about Bayliss or Laconi that day, right? It was just me and the bike and the team. And that's why I brought it across the line twice to complete that and win the championship, because it was only 2 points, I think, in 1 year in 2007 and I think 6 or something in the first. So it was high intensity. I mean, to be honest, you know, on Saturday night, I was like, a bit bummed, what you like, you know. But when it came to putting the leathers on, walking in the garage, like... if I can honestly say, if Mike Tyson was in the garage, I would have put a set of gloves on, right? If I had to get through him to get that trophy, and I can hand on heart say that, even if it was possibly going to really damage me, which he probably would have won it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mike Tyson's outside. Mike,
that was when I was too young to know the better. But yeah, I would, yeah, and
wow.
It was that approach, and it, you know, you can come unstuck with it. I tell you, you know, with that amount of with that approach to life, because there's a severe lack of self-preservation that goes with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I don't think I've ever said this. For many years, I used to listen to "Who Wants to Live Forever" by Queen before I went out of the motorhome. That was serious.
That is heavy, that.
Yeah. Yeah, for about 5-6 years I said. I don't think I've ever mentioned that, actually, ever. And I've mentioned most things, obviously, you can tell that, but yeah, and that was selfish because you know, I wasn't considering my family or mum or whatever if anything did happen, but I would have put it all on the line. And I think you could tell that with the riding. Luckily, I was aggressive on the track, but I never once took anybody out. I clipped a few people, just at elbows and like normal stuff, but I never took anybody out, luckily. And I'm pleased I didn't, because I wouldn't have given a shit if I did. I would have done with the consequences, but in that moment, with how much I wanted to beat somebody, I would have done anything.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
that kind of level.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
And I remember when you first went to MotoGP, there was like a few of them weren't really happy with like Stoner, and there was a few that were like complaining a little bit.
Yeah,
but
you know what that was down to? That was down to tyres. You know, I'd been on Pirellis since 2004 in Superbike, and Pirelli tyres. You put Pirelli tyres on, you do one sighting lap, then the next lap you can do a qualifying lap. Right, they get to temperature so fast, right, so fast that you're straight on it. And if you don't get a good lap time within 3 laps, they go off. So you've got to go out the box and pin it, and you could, because they were unbelievable about getting to temperature and staying to temperature, right? So then I went on the Michelins in 2008 and 9, and Bridgestones in 9, because it's Michelin's 08 and Bridgestones. And then all of a sudden, they take 3-4 laps to even get to temperature before you can push. So I had a couple of massive crashes in pre-season testing because I was still on Pirellis, and I was winding it on on the first couple of laps, and I was sky high on a few crashes, massive crashes, just because the Michelins and the Bridgestones, the characteristics of them on the first few laps was so. But when I went to the hotter countries like Qatar, the first race and all the rest of it, there was just enough temperature for me to just get away with it. So I was going from like 6 and that, and I was up the front like on the first lap because everybody's warming tyres up, and I'm on Pirelli still, and I got away with it a few times. But because of that, the speed difference I had on the first couple of laps, and then it made sense to me because you remember when Biaggi came to Superbikes from Grand Prix. I'm not kidding. That there is. I went round the outside of him on the first lap because he went from Michelin's to Pirelli's. So on the first lap on Pirelli's, Biaggi was shit slow, like unbelievably slow. Like, and then he came back again. Once he was up to speed. But the fear inside you on a Michelin and Bridgestone trying to get the temperature before you can wind it on fully, compared to the Pirelli, that's my excuse anyway. I'm sticking to it.
Good
But no, it was a massive thing though, that.
And so after winning the championship with Ducati, and then your next championship was 3 years later, 2007. In fact, I see pictures all the time of, when you did the double at Brands Hatch and on the 10 Carter bike. Do you say 10 Carter or 10K?
Oh,
10K?
I do both.
Yeah. whatever country you're moving, I'm feeling
that must have been a hell of a thing to double at the British.
Oh, amazing! My only ever double as well, and that's a poor show, to be honest, with all the years I had and those good bikes that I rode.
I was actually going to say another thing that sort of stands out for twice world champion. You were kind of like the master at doing enough without unnecessarily taking risks. So like in terms of like pole positions and fastest laps that you don't get points for.
No.
You never used to, like not too many, but twice world champion. So which is what
I could drag a result out. Whatever I was.
It is impressive, that ratio of like, say, I think when I was looking through the stats, I think you had 4 pole positions and 2 world championships.
Is that
so
all?
Like that, yeah.
Is that 4 poles? I tell you what though, I found out this year, I couldn't believe this because, Greg, who I commentate with, is a proper nerd, right? And he's great because he's like an encyclopedia of racing, right? And I love it because I love racing, but I haven't got the stats that he's got, right? And he said, anyway, I do realise, JT, you're the last guy to qualify in pole position here at Magny-Cours. This is this year. I went, for Ducati. I'm the last person for Ducati to qualify pole. That was my first ever pole position, 1 of 4, obviously. 2003.
Wow.
Like, you would not have put money on that, would you?
Mm-hmm.
Bayliss, Checker, you name them, all those riders.
That is a proper pub quiz, ammo, that stuff, isn't it?
Unbelievable. I said, no, that can't be right. There must have been a Ducati rider in the last, what is it, 16 years?
Unbelievable.
Ducati rider, unbelievable, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, but yeah, it was, 2004... I didn't win much because Regis was fast, much faster than me for most part of the early part of the year, that's for sure. And but I was only 23, and I'd still not really got the hang of riding a superbike properly, if I'm honest. And unfortunately for Regis Lacconi, I got the hang of it with 3 races to go. And I got his engines as well because of that. So, but I got the hang of it. I really did with the 999 and the Pirellis, because it was the first year of Pirellis as well, and they were different. And the 999, it was a particular old bike. That was a bit awkward because it was everything was developed on Michelin's. You see, so everything. Then all of a sudden Pirellis just come in like out the blue. Like literally out the blue, and then all of a sudden, all these bikes have been like developed over the years with different tires, and so it was an awkward thing. But like 3 rounds to go, I got the hang of it and got it. Like, but
do you know where your 2 world championship bikes are? Like, do you know the?
One's in my room.
Is that the
just not the
actual
headphones off?
The actual bike you won on?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a quick shifter.
Yeah, they probably took that off.
I'm looking at that going, how the hell's he done all that without a quick shifter?
10 Cartier, they probably took that off. They'd have been expensive then in them days.
Hydraulic clutch, beautiful that mind.
Yeah,
that is a proper aftermarket.
The Nissan stuff. The Nissan stuff was ace, yeah.
That is beautiful, that mind.
What about the Ducati?
Ducati's in a personal museum. From Tony, he's a real good friend and a good friend of Ducati's, and he's able to buy like the MotoGP bikes and stuff like that. So it's down there.
He's a good friend.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the 999 is down there. So hopefully, Tony, if you listen to this, hopefully I'll be able to come down and put it next to the other one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of my best mates has your race number, 52. What made you pick 52? I've got to ask that before I forget.
This is such a
shitty question, I know.
Underwhelming story. No, the answer's so boring. I got I did the junior championship and super teens, right? And super teens had a couple of numbers, and I got lapped, as I said. And I had three options in '97 for the CB500: 6, 12, or 52. Well, I got lapped on 6 and 12. I'd had 6 and 12, but got lapped. So I chose 52.
There we are.
That's all it was.
Oh,
I had a choice of three.
With you being managed by Roger Burnett and also Roger Burnett managing Danny Kent, was that did the 52 get passed on to Danny through that?
Danny was 52 because he was a bit of a fan of mine when he was younger, supposedly. And then when I got the injury and had to retire, Danny was just getting hot on the scene a little bit as a youngster. And he bumped into Roger, and Roger was just starting to help him, I believe. And then when I got the injury and all the rest, because he was number 52, it was a great PR stunt from Roger. Roger, always thinking about that. He thought, well, if James is not riding, James has got all this whole fan base here with merchandise and T-shirts. And so he said, if you actually give him it officially and hand it over, he'll be the next 52. And it worked amazingly. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Danny's career kind of, to become Moto3 world champion was absolutely amazing, and then it's taken a bit of a different course. But I tell you what, his Moto2 thing just wasn't that much of a success in the end. But when you look back, you remember who his teammate was?
And he was beating them regularly as well.
Fabio Quartararo.
Mm-hmm.
So no wonder he was having some struggles trying to keep up with that lad, because we've all seen the talents that he is. So, the career is about timing as well. Right place, right time, right bike, right tires, right. Everything's got to be right to be successful, and sometimes you can just get a bit of a rough break of it. And Danny got a rough break of it a few times.
Colin always says about like waiting for the crest, and you've kind of just got to be ready, and then when the crest comes, you need to ride it.
Oh, big time!
And
but to get on the crest, it's already got to be there.
Mm.
You've already got to have the engineers and the material, to be able to even get in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at world level,
you need a good surfboard to be on that crest. That's the truth, isn't it?
Looking at both the World Championship winning years, 2004 and 2007, does one sort of overshadow the other, or do you remember them both with like equal pleasure, or does one feel like more special than the other?
The first one was really emotional because I'd done it. That's the only thing I wanted to do, was to become a world champion at motorcycling, and I realised without Ken there, and my grandfather, who was always a massive supporter, I lost him within 6 months of Ken, and he was a big father figure, obviously. So it was without those two figures there, and my mum was there all upset, my brother was there upset, and everything was amazing, but there was a massive part of me going, oh, what was it? What's it for? What's all that? What's all the celebration for? Without them being here to see it, that they started it, So that was, and also it was very muted as well, because it was me and Laconia at the last race in France with all his family and friends there. He was 5 points in the lead going to the last race. Imagine. Mm-hmm. He's never won the World Championship since, and that was his only opportunity in life. You didn't know that at the time. But he lost it. I mean, the difference of his life from that day on compared to what mine was always going to be the world champion. You can't underestimate just the profile thing. Never mind anything else. Mm-hmm. And he was so gracious with it, and his family were. But they couldn't have been a massive party, obviously, because we got one off the garage absolutely devastated, and one not. So, and it was the only time for the Ducati factory team that they got both riders going for the championship in the last race, which was unusual. You wouldn't have said that, all the years with the Bayliss and Zaus and Hodgson and Zaus and all this. So it was a tricky one for the team, that one. And because of all that situation going round, it was a particular celebration, shall we say. 2017 Carty with the Dutch lads.
Made up for it.
Winning as underdogs in a satellite team, oh my God, we weren't supposed to be beating Bayliss on a factory Ducati and Biaggi and all the rest of it, and it's and Hager, So that made up for it in bucket loads, because when you're not really supposed to, and you're an underdog, and you get that credit, then that was a party. Yeah, that was a party. But so 2004 will stick with pride within me for the achievement that I achieved from the circumstances that they were from. 2007 was more of a celebration for the skills I'd accumulated before that, and celebrated because of it. If I was able to separate them.
Amazing. And then your MotoGP, because you did have an opportunity to go MotoGP in 2007, didn't you, with Pramac?
Yeah.
Sort of stayed in World Superbikes, won the championship, and then with Tech 3 back then with Cal Crutchlow's teammate, was he, or the first year?
In MotoGP?
Yeah.
Edwards.
No, Edwards, sorry, yeah.
And it was when I came back to Superbike, it was Cal.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Edwards, it was me and Edwards in Tech 12.
When you first stepped in, like you mentioned before, Qatar, massively came on the scene. Were you front row first race?
Second, yeah. I was pole position to the last lap.
Wow.
Bloody Lorenzo hit me.
And how was
Spanish shit?
How was your time? I mean, looking back, it was a bit of a difficult time to be in MotoGP with that bike. It was pretty slow, the Tech 3 bike on there, and like there was the whole tyre thing. And do you look back on the years of MotoGP with fond memories, or like what's, if you had to sort of describe it?
I'd got Jorge Lorenzo and Colin Edwards on the front row with me, and behind me was Valentino Rossi. Well, you know, as a young kid at 9-year-old starting trials riding in Kiverton Park in Sheffield, it honestly doesn't matter now. I did that, you know, and I can say that, and that's it really. That's what it's about. You know, it's about applying yourself, dedicating yourself to something. If you've got some natural talent and you've got opportunities, and okay, you know, some things were difficult personally, but I wasn't. I was given opportunities and I took them massively. I don't think I was the most talented rider. I think I think my enthusiasm and my determination made up for a few things, for a few areas. But those two MotoGP years, we had the slowest bikes on the grid for those 2 years, the Tech 12 Yamahas, unfortunately, because the 800s were on the way out, because the 1000cc's were going to come back. And so, and I was on Michelin's the first year, and then Bridgestone's the second year. So I had two new different things to learn. I had 7 or 8 new tracks I'd never been to. And if you can imagine going out at the end of pit lane against Valentino and all the rest of the boys on a track that you don't even know the first corner's right or left, and by the time Saturday afternoon comes, you've got to be within half a second, it ain't an easy gig, you know, on the slowest bike. So my heart will always want to have done better, but even if I'd have won the MotoGP championship, my heart would have wanted to have done better. It's a curse. So that's how I cope with life. Of the things I do in life that I think I should have done better. and I could have done that in superbikes in areas. I could have been a 3 or 4 times champion in superbikes. And I could have definitely done better in MotoGP on a faster bike, definitely. But if my auntie had bollocks, she'd be my uncle.
And remind us, what year was it that, do you know when you're on BBC Sports Personality and you played the piano, what year was that?
That was after the 07 season with 10-car team.
Right, because I remember...
That was dodgy as hell.
Was it?
Well, I went down on my race bike on a Perspex stage with no front brake, because I can't remember that someone left out the front pads or something. So I just, in fact, no, Was it? No, sorry, no rear brake, right? So I'd only got front brake on a Perspex stage. That's why it was dodgy. And it was like that. And like you're looking down, you've got Paula Radcliffe and Johnny...
They're insured for millions.
Like Usain Bolt and Roger Federer all on the front row kind of thing, and you're kind of rolling
I'm
down.
amazed that in terms of health and safety and the way things are, I'm amazed that allowed that to happen.
Well, we did the rehearsal without pyrotechnics because it was a one-time wonder. We couldn't do that. So I was on behind the big double doors in the arena. I think it was Liverpool. And the double doors opened, down the stage, stop on the cross, wave to the crowd. But, right, it was a bit technical because I'm thinking, right, got no rear brake. I ain't going to try and find neutral on the way down, right? So which hand do I wave with? Because if I'm taking my right hand off and keeping it in first, like, I've got no brake, obviously. So literally, I've got my hand on the clutch. If you watch, my foot is dug in,
Dragging
like that. I was like, I nearly got cramp in my thigh. I was pushing down that hard, thinking if this jumps now, I'm
Flintstoning the shit out of it.
But way it all got nervous was right. Cue pyrotechnics. All the smoke starts. We think I couldn't even see the door. I can't see the door. So I said, you're going to have to tell me if doors are... Because literally, it was like stars in their eyes. You know what I mean? He said, right, go. I could not see if the door was open or shut. So I literally went through this smoke thinking, I hope this door's open because the whole thing's going to go over.
It's a huge occasion. Like, the viewing figures are massive and it's
12 million or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And then can you imagine you play the piano as well, don't you? Yeah. Oh, well, would you play something as well? With the London, with the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, I went, yeah. Well, we'll just do a bit of bluesy rock and roll. And it was so ride down, waving, no brakes, pyrotechnics, stop, bit of an interview, sit down, and then all the clapping that we rehearsed with claps and stuff. So I'm trying to hear the conductors 1, 2, 3, 4 to start. So anyway, play the piano and I finished fourth, I think. I just got pipped by. It was Kawasaki won that year. I think Paulo was second, and who's the boxer that got with Mayweather lost? Ricky Hatton. And Ricky Hatton lost that night to Mayweather. I think it was Mayweather. He lost, got knocked out big time. And on the thing, he said, "Yeah, I bloody slipped, didn't I? I slipped in round 10 or whatever." And it was so funny, his interview, that he just I'd got a mic on. They'd mic me up, ready for my interview for the top three, to be one of the top three. And he just went like that because he was so funny. And that's BBC Sports personality. It's called personality. So, but yeah, I finished fourth in the end. But he said, we couldn't believe, because he lost, we mic'd you up. We're thinking, well, you won. So you're definitely going to be in the top three compared to a boxer that lost. But because he was so funny with it, they all rang up for him.
It's when you were speaking earlier about the sort of proud feeling from your mum that day at Magnico when you're world champion, something like that must be another occasion where incredibly when just thinking back to that 15 grand investment, it's an incredibly proud moment.
To do something that you see your parents beam uncontrollably with pride, it's a special gift that any kid can give their parent.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're singing on stage in a panto at 8 years old and you get your mum's lip twitching, whatever. But to do it as an adult, it was and like I say, it just felt like I'd just about justified what I'd put her through in the pursuit of.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite fully, but
I really want to see this caravan. I really want to see this caravan.
She's upgraded now. She's on a twin wheeler now.
Good on her. There we go. But oh my god!
I think we've got some Patreon questions. I'm pretty sure I'm stealing one of the Patreon questions here. But I know after your racing thing, that you were involved with the Triumph 50. Was it a 52 rocket or something 400 mile an hour thing? And we had a guy on the show last week, and I think he then, after you were due to do it, I think he was involved, but I don't know if it's happening now. What's the story behind that, and like what's it all about?
Well, when I retired from racing, they had this project going and they needed a rider for it, and they were pursuing to be the first two wheels to go over 400 miles an hour. I think the record's 376, and they wanted to break the 400 mile an hour mark. And at the time where I just couldn't race anymore, that was right up there with scratching that itch. So I thought, well, I'll have a bit of that. I want to be the fastest guy on two wheels. That'll be all right.
Yeah, that'll tick a box nicely there.
Yeah. But they had a huge issue with the turbine engine that they were developing on the dyno to get it to run, to actually start in a neutral position before it started the drive. So technically, it was a tricky project, and then funding was very difficult for them. And then by the time we'd had some problems with getting the bike to a stage where we could start testing, I got all the problems with the wrist, and I've since then I've had 6 operations on the wrist, and that delayed everything. And then obviously, the guy came along, available, and also he comes with a lot of TV behind him as well with the shows he does. So
since you've had your wrist fused, are you still in pain with that, or is that?
It's a bit uncomfortable, but it's not life affecting anymore.
Right, good.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of years of like.
I couldn't pick my toothbrush up for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Real. I tell you what, that was the toughest challenge I've ever done. Much more than trying to win on bikes and stuff like that. Yeah. To live with that amount of pain every single day, and have operation recovery not worked out, operation recovery not worked out, because every time that was like a 4 or 5 month period. Operation recovery, realizing it's not worked. That's 5 months. So all of a sudden you have a couple of operations, the whole year's gone, and that's why. And then post-op, you chuck all the painkillers in, opioid painkillers that I had to be on, and all the rest of it. They change your head. It's been a horrible challenge, and that's why we made the tough decision to go stop enough. Let's just fuse it, because they wanted to fuse it after the crash because it was so badly damaged. But I chose not to, because I knew I wouldn't be able to ride again. So I chose to have a partial fuse and all the rest of it. And then I've had 2 false wrists put in, but they didn't work out. And then it was like, no, enough, because I could feel that even my determination and vigor was starting to dilute, and the hope for life was starting to dilute because of the situation. So I'm pleased I made the difficult decision to fuse it. It's not ideal, doesn't move anymore. So don't go that way, don't go that way, don't go that way, but because it don't move, it don't hurt so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you like with piano then?
I have to lift the hand off instead of, because the piano is the right and left when you glide over the notes, where the bike's obviously up and down.
Yeah.
So I have to lift to then put it in the next place when I'm playing. So I have to actually play more accurately now. I have to play better to play at the same level. But luckily I can play well enough to enjoy it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you can do something that you can still enjoy, then you keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to? Do you know if you could have a throttle on your left hand side? Would it be possible to ride a bike?
It would, but I tell you what, it wasn't just the up and down for the throttle. Do you know what one of the major problems was I didn't have that ulnar radiation for that.
Right.
So because it didn't bend, when I went into right-handers, I couldn't, and my body kept going over the arm.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have that angle. And that angle is so strong on the handlebar, because it locks everything in the triangle position. And when you can't bend that wrist into that, all your body does is go over the top of it, and your shoulder just rolls over. Just impossible. So that was more of an issue for riding fast than it was actually to control the throttle. Yeah.
There we are. Move and clip on. Not very safe, but I think that's the future for you. Just get a clip on that moves on you. It's going to be a problem.
Under the jet skis.
So yeah, that's food for thought for later on.
So in terms of sort of hobbies and sports right now in your life, what with your wrist injury, what can you do now?
Not much. I can't play golf. I never used to play golf that much, but I went to the driving range, and that's impossible. In fact, there's the works due for my brother's bowling night, and I'm going to go, I think it's in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go see if I can do that. I'm not sure if that'll work out. Might even straighten my game up.
I was going to say, is there anything that's improved?
Yeah,
I love that. Imagine,
Brilliant, a pool.
yeah, I might get disqualified because I got an advantage.
this time next year, you'll be on the telly. Jam jar glasses, bow tie.
But it's stopped a lot of things. But to be honest, something that stopped me, like literally stopped me, it's like, right, just stop, will you? Has done me good. Mm-hmm. I think if I had only had an injury that I could still carry on, my bonfire would still be absolutely raging. This has gone, stop, right? Stop the bikes. Stop this thing you've been on. Stop this anger fest of frustration. Just stop and just enjoy the simple things in life, you know. And age gives you that naturally. All right. As soon as you get to like 40 boys, you'll realise that it's not, life's sometimes not about the things that you think are going to make it happy and going to fulfil your life. You realise that you know, it's other things, not the things you think it is. So and the wrist stopping me from doing it all has forced me to reset a bit.
Like sort of find enjoyment elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll never do that. I'll never be able to do that. I will have to live for the rest of my life
with a curse.
with not having. Do you know what? I think I live a life of an ex-drug addict. You know,
Yeah,
it's the same thing. I'll always be addicted to racing. I'll always be addicted to riding motorcycles at 200 miles an hour for what those emotions gave me. The endorphins that kicked off, I'll never be able to do again. But I'll always I'll always have to live with not having it. Yeah.
Have you ever tried skydiving?
Yes. Boring as hell. Do you know what? I did that literally about 2 or 3 weeks after I retired from racing, right? And I did it with the ex-Kate, and we both jumped out as a charity event, right? And we both landed, and she was in tears, like loving it and all the rest of it. And I remember sat on the grass, and then realizing just how much in trouble I was, because it was a big hit, and like I was getting used to it, and the depression really hit, and when depression really consumes you, oh my god, it's like you know, you could have Pamela Anderson naked, like, you know, whacking her boobs on the side of your face, and it'd be like someone sticking a spitty finger in your eye. That's not really bad. You get the gist.
So I'm still on Pamela Anderson. I am fully absorbed in this conversation. Fully absorbed. Keep talking. I'm nearly there.
Do you know the only time that I've sort of seen.
I don't know where I was going with that.
But like what you're talking about, the only time that I've seen it in my life, and it'll stick with us my whole life. It was before I started racing, and we went down to Brands to watch BSB, and we stayed in a hotel somewhere nearby, and me, my mum, dad, and my sister went bowling. And when we got there, Frank Bruno was there with his kids, and it'll have been like his kids' mates. And it was a time when Frank was going through like heavy depression. It was public knowledge that he was struggling.
Yeah.
And it was all cordoned off, so he was sat there, and exactly what you've just said there about when you're in that place. And I'd never seen it before, and I don't think I've ever seen it to that intensity since. And I seen him, and I was just, obviously everyone there knows who he is, and there's like people in awe. And he was sat there, and he was there physically, but there was just nothing good.
Not emotionally present.
And yeah, it really stuck with us. And it's
awful. It's an illness. It is like tonsillitis, like whatever, whatever flu, whatever. It's an illness that gets into your system, that consumes you. It's awful. And you've got to deal with it. You know, in certain ways, therapy or whatever. had a little bit of that, and I think that's really beneficial to some, but in different levels again. But I kind of like judged the therapy. Like, I was talking to my engineer in the garage, trying to get a better setup for my bike, right? And what I found out only recently is, don't underestimate how little you know about yourself, because a lot of people don't go to therapy because it's like, I know what's wrong with me, I know why, so I know I know, no one else is going to understand because they don't know. But what you're completely misunderstanding when you go and see a professional is they professionally know humans and human nature and what we are, and it's like it was like me trying to set up my bike myself without using an engineer. I would have been able to do something, but I wouldn't have been able to do anywhere near as much as it is talking to a professional. And when I'm, if I was able to describe therapy with someone with depression, don't hold yourself back and don't corner yourself. Don't put yourself in a cul-de-sac. Just saying no one's going to be able to help me because I know myself fully. You'll be surprised how little you know.
Wow.
About yourself.
Well, I'm sure there'll be at least one person, there'll be people listening to that are in different places in their lives, and I'm sure it'll help.
That has been
people.
the perfect way to describe like the lack of weakness behind seeing therapy, in my opinion. Like, you know what I mean? That is the perfect way of describing it. Is the fact of like it's not someone you're not going there for their experience. It's telling you how the brain works. It's perfect, mate. It really is.
You can only sort so much out yourself.
Yeah.
But you think that about because if you understand how to be an electrician, right, you sort electrics out yourself. If you understand how to do, podcasts, you sort that out, right? But everybody thinks they're an expert on themselves, and there's nobody else that can sort or help anything other than what you know. And God, you can't be that. You couldn't be further wrong. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We're on a Patreon page, and people can just ask questions in text, but people can also send videos in. So we've got one video from you. It's from Mel, who's, I'm pretty sure, Canada, isn't it? He's Canadian.
He's not a local native anyway. I know that much.
Mel?
Mel.
Him.
Here.
Oh.
You raced against him, beating some of the best riders ever. But I'm just wondering, is there a rider or riders that you wish you could have competed against, past or present, head-to-head on the track? And if so, who would that be, and what track would that be on? Cheers.
Oh, good one, Mel.
That is a cracking
really good
question, Mel. That.
Oh, I've only been to Canada once, Obviously, we didn't race up there, so it was. I went to Vancouver with the music. I got the first album mixed over there in Vancouver, and that was amazing. I'd love to see a lot more of Canada, but
Mel to take you when you answer his question.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Kevin Swanson's got to be on the grid.
Yes,
Mick Doohan. I'd have Valentino again, just because My old mate Bayliss, God, he was the tough not to beat. He was, crikey. I don't know why I'm doing that to myself. No, I'm not having Bayliss again. He was too difficult to beat.
I've got this imaginary line of going like, go sit back down. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers, mate.
I'm not doing that to myself again. Trying to beat Troy, crikey, that was too hard. Who else? We're going to have Barry Sheen on there. So I'm doing a full grid. 30.
Carry on. Keep going.
Barry Sheen, Kevin Swans, Mick Doohan, Freddie Spencer, Ron Aslam. Ron Aslam's always been a really good guy in the paddock, and obviously I've grown up with Leon racing, and obviously he was a very successful rider himself. So I'd have him on there. Now Mackenzie, he was always a top bloke. Neil Hodgson, of course. Who else from MotoGP? Norikabe. I always enjoyed watching him with his style, with his rock and roll hairstyle. Bless him. I'd have him up there. I'm sure there's someone missing off the list. Scott Russell. He was always fun. God, he was crazy. Scotty. I'd have Michael Paquet, my old teammate, back on the grid with me. I'd have Craig Jones. I'd have Chris Jones back on the grid with me. That we lost. Carl Harris, bless him. And Joey Dunlop. Let's have Joey on there for sure.
Definitely.
A very proud moment, actually. Joey Dunlop, his final year was on my Vimto bike, you know.
Wow.
So that was very proud. And the statue on the mountain is my bike. Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really
I heard
proud
that
thing.
fact, yeah.
Really proud thing. I actually got out my Vimto leathers and went up there, put the leathers on and stood next to him. I had a picture of my Vimto leathers with him on
Fantastic.
the bike.
Which track would
I was
it
about
be?
to say you have to pick a track now.
Oh yeah, track. Track would have to be Brands Hatch, or Phillip Island. They're my two favourites.
Wow.
Let's be patriotic though. Let's keep it at Brands. Yeah, Brands Hatch against those boys. I'd be on Bagnaya's Ducati. The rest of the field would be on Pedro Acosta's Moto3 bikes.
Keeping it fair, keeping it patriotic. I like your style. Big fan of your work. Big fan of your work.
You know, I'm all about the easy life these days.
Good lad. Right, go on. What's the next one? What
We've got a few Patreon questions, but I'm just going to quickly ask you myself. Going in the final round of the World Superbike Championship, what's your thoughts on your top rack Jonathan battle?
It is tricky. Anybody with a 30-point lead going into the championship finale, it's comfortable. You know, you got that. But it's comfortable going to a track that you know the setup for, the team knows the setup for, you've got a load of data, and when you roll out on a Friday morning, you know you're going to be there or thereabouts, and to consolidate a 30-point lead is pretty comfortable, right? Indonesia, brand new track, no data, could be raining in the rainy season over there, all the rest of it. And will the R1 work round there? Who knows? Will the Kawasaki work round there? Who knows? So it will all be decided on Friday, about half an hour into FP1. If Top Rack is in the top three, competitive in the pace, he's got it. If it's raining, Johnny Ray's a second and a half quicker than him, and he's in 12th. It's game on. Mm-hmm. And it's as critical as that. Because 30 points, now with 3 races in a weekend, 62 points up for grabs. It's not like my day, you know. I mean, 50 to 62 doesn't sound much, but 30-point lead in the wet, in the first race, on a track you don't know, the corners you don't know, the apexes you don't know, the curbs, the damp patches, the puddles. Because if it rains in Indonesia, it rains. So lie in water. And how, you know on the bike, lads, how little of a mistake you need to make in the rain for it to be a big issue, right? Well, you know.
Oh, John Vaughan.
First race out. we got guests.
We've got guests. There we go.
Click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
We got rain midway through. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Benidorm baby. That's the unfortunate. But your nephew there, we've just met.
Yeah. To be honest though, 10 o'clock. I didn't realise the time. 10 o'clock at night, kind of on the drive, talking in a little trailer.
I tell you
what,
what,
it's a bit unusual.
Without trying to creep you out, we've done a lot worse. We've done a lot worse.
I thought it might be the neighbour thinking, you know, someone's filling up because the guys there. I thought they might be worried someone's filling up a trailer and nicking stuff. So.
Oh, we've got time. We've got time. There we go. So yeah, I was about to say,
remember them nights, like where I live, it's like in an enclosed estate type of thing, and like me and Dom would go into the, like, say this, like 10 o'clock at night, and then like sometimes Zoe Byrne, who writes the UK Club Sport magazine, she sometimes comes on with us, and we've said before, I wonder what the neighbours think when like me, Dom and Zoe walk out at like 11:30 at night.
It does look a bit dodgy.
The heat's been full bore, the sweat's running off the brows. Eh?
Well, you can see how when my nephew opened the door, it's like, what's going on in here, lads?
He doubled up as a great cop. He was straight on the case. Going, where's my uncle? What's going on here?
What kind of a pot is this? You're not 17 listening to records still, are you, pal? Grow up.
We're trying to blend this into the next edit. That's gone out the window. It's cut and take. Let's go to the next question straight off the bat.
Yeah, a few Patreon questions. We've got Liam Evans. What are the biggest challenges you face as a team manager? So I presume, because you did that for a few years, didn't you? With
just the one.
Is it
just the 1 year with WRP with Danny Webb? Yeah,
really?
World Supersport. Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, loved it. A lot of work because I realised that it was managing but coordinating really. So kind of how, you know, going to going to there's like big Chinese shops, like with everything in them, like, you know, for an extension lead or an umbrella or catch trays or whatever, and everything with a new team that doesn't have, right? So I was flying around in hire car, the rent a car, trying to like organise all that and do the schedule for the weekend, organising the tyre allocation and all that, and then trying to structure Danny's his approach to the weekend that we're talking about. So it was busy, you know. I made sure that I was the first in, last out. You know, I'd been shown how the best do it with Colin Wright, and I could see how he got the best out of the team with the way he did things. Mm-hmm. He led by example, so I did that.
Do you still keep in contact with Colin?
Only on the socials every now and again, I'd say, but not to chat to. Again, he was always a manager. You know, I'll hold him dear as a dear friend. But when I think of Colin, I still go back to being 20. Like, you know, if he walked in here, I'd be like, oh, hey up, Colin.
Straight up.
Yeah,
sit straight there. Sit straight up the back.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, you're going to have to re-quote him again. I'm going to have to remember this. Hold on. Go again. Say it again. One more time for us.
I'm not always right.
I'm never wrong.
But I'm never wrong.
I like that. I do like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be good for you to have a catch up with him.
Definitely, yeah.
Like I've seen him a few years ago, but then even on sometimes you see a lot of tweets in a row, and then I won't see his name for like years or months or years.
Yeah, I think Colin, I bet's got a story himself about coping with life after not being in the paddock, because the responsibility that he had to run that GSE team for all those years in BSB and in World Superbike, you know, there must have been what, 20 people, 25 people in the team, you know, from team coordinator to chef to rider, you know what I mean? Big responsibility looking after all those people.
I love the story when you were on Gas It Out, Neil Hodgson, Gavin's podcast, about, you know, when he's making you wear suits to travel to the race, and I was proper laughing at that.
Oh god, to be honest, I didn't mind because the geeky piano player's still in me. Right, so smartening up with a suit, like going to the event,
You're about that,
I was like, oh, wicked. When the tweed turned up, though, I thought, hang on, who's choosing the suits here? So this tweed jacket, and we went to the airport the first time, and I can't remember which team it was. There was another team in the airport, and they were asking what funeral we were going to. Who's passed away? Oh, sorry, who's passed away? Like, you know, taking the piss. And they said, oh, a GC cricket team's turned up. You know, oh god, and it didn't work out like we thought it was on paper. You know, one of them, you know, a bit like if you're Only Fools and Horses fan, it was literally like turning up as Batman and Robin into the paddock with a suit on. Literally, same reaction.
Outstanding.
Great. We've got Jessie Mortimer. Who do you think is the most overrated rider in World Superbikes? That's a difficult one.
Crikey. She knows what my opinion's like.
It's a man, Jessie.
Yeah, weird ones, you know. Overrated rider. Oh God, shall I say? Let me have a think. I'm having to have a think actually, because they're all class, you know.
Yeah.
So there isn't someone that springs to mind.
I'm thinking the same thing, and I'm trying to think of somebody, and I personally can't think of one.
Overrated. You see.
Or how about we'll do overrated as well? But is there anyone that you think's underrated?
A toughie. I don't think Gerloff's shown his true potential yet. With the first couple of years and the shenanigans that he's had adapting to the new riders and new way of riding, new tracks and that. So I think we're yet to see the best of him. Overrated rider. That's a tricky one, because that is offensive, isn't it?
you are massively.
Damn it! You figured out the trap.
In your job as well, you're massively putting yourself out by naming someone, because if they then go out and do it's a proper difficult question.
I honestly, hand on heart, can't think of somebody.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be down to the individual on how much he rates himself in the mirror.
There we are.
And I'm not sure whose that is, because that's a private thing, innit?
If you had to pick one rider to step up from BSB in the Worlds, who would it be?
Yeah, Mackenzie. Yeah,
Mackenzie.
Yeah.
I'd love to see.
Absolutely,
Someone
because
from Worlds.
there's not many under the 30. You know, when you look at the ages,
And when you look at MotoGP, the
I think
average
Taz is
age,
25. Yeah, and then you've got the youngsters. There's you've got the 30 to 35s, right? Are too old and done that too long and haven't made the jump for whatever reason. You've only got Mackenzie in that mid-age group, really, with the potential to make that jump at the minute. Then you've got your 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, like your Skinners and your Ryan Vickers and Danny Kent still. What is he? 24.
I think Danny's old. I think he's about 27.
Oh, is he?
28.
Oh, is he above Mackenzie? Oh,
yeah, he's definitely old.
Anyway, so it's there's not many at the right age to do it.
I bet you sometime, do you know when you see like a 21-year-old now, I bet there's a part of you that sees like a child and thinks, I can't believe I was riding a World Superbike at that age.
Yeah, I do a little bit. I do, because obviously we've just been watching Pedro Acosta at 17 and the amazing rookie season that he's had, and I think, wow, and then you think, no, actually I was doing the same. You know, I wasn't a world champion, but I was racing at world level at that age. But when you look as a 40-year-old, like you say, 40-year-old's eyes looking at us, a 17-year-old, all of a sudden the 17-year-old looks 10, doesn't it, to you? But at 17-year-old, you forget. You knew it all, didn't you? Or you thought you did, didn't you? You remember, if you actually remember being 17, you thought you got it sussed. Don't you? You know what I mean? But when you get to 14, then you see a 17-year-old and you know how much they don't know. It's different, isn't it?
No, it is absolutely. I've got a question from Dewey Williams about asking about the 52, the Triumph project, but we've already spoke about that. And Stephen Whitmore, who was your best and worst teammates? Did Colin Edwards and yourself really have a bit of a fallout about a crew chiefs, or was that the press blowing it up out of proportion?
No, we had a full on ding dong with that situation. Colin, it was a shame because the history, 17 years old in Castrol Honda, with being his teammate in Castrol Honda back in 98, 99. It was a shame that scenario arose halfway through 2008. Colin's chief engineer started talking to me in the paddock and in the hospitality about saying that my chief engineer is not doing the right things, and if he'd done that, if you do it this way and doing this way, you get better results and all the rest of it. And I connected because Guy Coulon was a French guy, didn't speak English very well, and I didn't really have a rapport with him like I had with my previous engineers. And Colin's engineer took an interest, and he said, look, for next year, I don't want to work with Colin anymore. I'll either be working with you if you like, or I'm going to move teams. So I said to Hervé, look, I said, I'm struggling here with a relationship with Guy, and Gary's offered his services, but what would be the situation? So Hervé just said, well, if Gary wants to tell Colin, then we'll do it if you want, no problem, because Guy was doing other things in the team anyway, because he was one of the hierarchy, So, and he underestimated the reaction Colin had about it all, because then those two had a massive ding dong about it at the last race about doing it. All of a sudden, then I got dragged in a little bit amongst it, and then obviously then Colin, you wouldn't be able to see past that I'd had a hand in manipulating that situation, right? But I can hand on heart say that I didn't pull Gary away from Colin, 100%, right? But you'd struggle if you were Colin to not think that.
Yeah.
So that was because of that situation. It created that doubt. Then all of a sudden, if you're not that mate, you're not that mate. If you don't trust anybody, so
out the window. Especially
if you're trying to succeed on the track as well. So as soon as that behind the scenes trust goes, because that's how you stay kind of friendly with your competitors, because underneath it all, actually they're a decent kid.
Yeah.
Once that goes, that's it. We're not mates at all. So it was a bit of a problem. Best teammate, Neil Hodgson, I'd have to say, with what he taught me. So yeah, but Colin was definitely not my worst teammate. But he asked about that incident. Was it true? And I said, yeah, well, it was true. Yeah, and it was unfortunate as well. But I actually went to Colin's Moto, knocked on the door, went in, we had a beer together. I explained it, and I did that face to face with him too. And then from that point on, then if you step up and you know you try and sort it out, it's okay. But it will only be okay now. It won't be mega like it used to be.
Yeah,
which is a shame. So.
Yeah,
but you know, I have massive respect for Colin, and I hold him as a friend, regardless.
Fair enough. Well, that's all from the Patreon questions. Have you got anything?
No, I think you got the World Superbike one straight off the bat there. No, it was a case of who's your money on, and it's a case of the 30-point lead, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to this last round, though. The fact that no one's been there or anything like that. Are you looking forward to commentating on it?
I'm not, because I only commentate on the ones that clashed this year with BSB and World Superbikes. That's why I needed and because BSB didn't start till June because of the crowds, they were all crammed in and they clashed a lot with Worlds, so that's why they needed an extra pair of hands this year with me.
Got you.
So
just push your way in, man. Get the elbows out.
No.
The bonfire's still there.
It's always been Whit and Greg, and so because it was discussed, you know, who do you pick for the last one? And I said stick to what it was originally, because me and Whit are such good friends. We go back years, decades, and so it was just the right thing to do. Just stick to it how it was, and I'm going to be in the studio with
brilliant.
him, so.
And in terms of plans going forward, so for like next season, is it just the commentating at the moment, or have you got anything else in the
No, Eurosport's not rang up to see what my availability is next year yet. So I've got a couple of songs going on.
After doing the sort of team manager role for a while, is that something that or like the mentoring side of things, is that something that you have an interest in going back to? Or
I do team managing again, but for a team that was well set up, well funded.
Right.
Because going to the Chinese shops to pick up all the stuff, running around the paddock for to pick up all the lunches, settle the table out, get the lunches sorted out, go up to race control, get the transponder, just all of
everything.
those, all of those little things that keep the glue together, right? I was running around like nothing else. But if it was for an established team, and I was there just to be first in, last out, and to be like a figurehead to set an example, I feel like I could be a good influence on a team. But who knows? I'm pretty open. Since retiring from racing, I've been pretty lucky. I've been able to do what I like to do, with everything. So I'm going to try and just keep on doing that. Try and do a bit more music and whatever else comes. I think it all depends on if Eurosport are able to go on site again with the COVID situation. I think if Eurosport are able to go on site again, then they'll need the two teams for on site in World Superbikes and on site in British Superbikes. But while you can't go on site, everything's just in a studio. So while it's in a studio, you can have the same guys doing Worlds and BSB.
Yes,
So that's the I think once Eurosport know if it's just going to be in the studio or on site, then they'll pick the team. So
yeah.
Well, if at any point you want to tick the crowd surfing off the bucket list, just let us know where you're playing. Me and Dom will be in the front row ready to catch you, and we'll promise we'll 100% catch
with a bed sheet just in case.
But it's
Imagine we get that text.
Love it.
it's on. Yeah.
Appreciate that, lads. Appreciate it.
I like it.
Even if we're supporting music as well. Just bring the sheet. Cheers, lads.
No bother. No bother.
I love live music. So if you're ever playing, especially anywhere in the north of England, please let us know, and I'll be there. I like a good big into.
Bollocks!
I'm waiting for his Germany tour again. That's where I'm going.
Are you a fan of Thin Lizzy?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, there's a tribute band, Limehouse Lizzy.
Right.
I've seen them many times. I like a bit of rock and roll. So
that'd be good.
Real good.
Yeah.
And I'm big into my music. So.
Well, isn't a couple of Thin Lizzy boys? Is it Black Star Riders? I think that there's a couple of Thin Lizzy players, or one Thin Lizzy player. So I think that's the name that they go under.
Right.
Yeah, obviously they're all not still here, luckily, but unfortunately, but it's an amazing similar kind of gypsy lifestyle. You're traveling around different places, entertaining people.
The circus.
Before I was going round in circles on a motorbike, and the other one was just on stage singing and playing. So, but it's quite a similar lifestyle to live. Much more healthy being a sportsman than a rocker, I must admit.
I'll tell you one thing I forgot to ask you about, which sprung to mind. Can you remember so when you first went to MotoGP, the home Grand Prix? So I was there that year, and the Toseland t-shirts with the music thing going on, they were literally everywhere. Like, you did well for merchandise that weekend.
Do you know what? I'm not sure if it's been done since. I don't think. But I have been the only one to outsell Valentino Rossi at a British Grand Prix.
I can believe that. Yeah, it was massive, and because
very proud of that.
I'd have that on the wall.
Yeah. I would have preferred to have beaten him on the last lap in 2009 and finished 5th instead of 6th.
But hey, we can't have it all.
So an extra few quid for t-shirts.
That's it. Good lad.
Yeah. You said there was that thing about you said you were going to strip naked if you got it. Was it a win or a podium or something?
Well, I did in Superbikes, didn't I? But yeah, I would have done in GP, that's for sure. There weren't much chance of it on the Tech Turd, though.
Fantastic.
That's what this episode's going to be now.
I'm thinking of a title all the way through. Fantastic.
We've got to say a huge thank you for your time and letting us come down and for a nice coffee as well.
Hey, no problem at all. You got lucky there. I just got the decent coffee in.
Yeah,
for your posh mates there, so champion.
Really.
No, I've enjoyed it. You're doing a good job, lads, on getting the word out there on this fantastic sport of ours. The highs are so high and the lows are so low with it. It's a weird and wonderful kind of like place to be around the motorcycling world. And one of the two biggest things I've got from it, I think, are I was brought into and introduced to one of the nicest clubs that you can be a part of, and that's the biking club. I've met so many top people that are bikers from all walks of life. And with my achievements, the biggest achievement that I ever had was to leave that respected. Take the trophies away, take anything away. I felt like I was respected, and I think if you can go through life and do life and approach life to where you're respected from people, no matter what your actual achievement is, whether you're 1st or 10th. Don't be disappointed if you don't achieve what you want to achieve. The biggest thing is just your approach to it, and the respect that you get from it is the biggest reward. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Great way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be in different parts of their life, and really appreciate your open honesty and I've
definitely
thoroughly enjoyed it. And I also must say a quick shout out and a thank you to Aidan Robinson, who from ITRM, who put us in touch. Shout out to Aidan.
Oh yes, best physio in town. Is it? What do you call it?
Don't call him a physio. Don't call him a physio.
No. As soon as I said that, I thought, not chiropractor either, is he?
Is he not? I thought it was.
No, he's a chiropractor, but do not call him a physio. He's a big, powerful man that you do not call a physio.
No, come on, we need the right terminology here, because he's
an angry Viking right now. Listen to this.
Absolutely. Aid, I'm sorry,
him? Are you seeing him before me, or have I don't know. I don't want to go first. That's what I want to know.
He's a professional. That if you got any aches and pains and troubles, he puts people back on their feet, literally. Only so with his superb work that he does, he helped me a lot on my wrist operations throughout, and there's not much you can do for this particular one now. It's fixed. Maybe put a hammer on it.
Bend it for calling you a physio. Straight off the bat.
But no, he's great, isn't he? I think most of the motorcycle world goes and sees him with this stuff. So yes, cheers, Aidan, for this. Enjoyed it. Sat on my driveway until 10 at night.
The neighbours would be gossiping. But there we go.
Big thank you to our patrons, and massive thank you to our sponsor, Colchester Kawasaki. Thanks very much for your time, and look forward to catching up soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.